Good morning. I am Councilmember Zachary Parker, Chair of the Committee on Youth Affairs. Today is December 11th, 2025. We are meeting in room 500 of the John A. Wilson Building and virtually via Zoom. The time is now 10:33 a.m. and I am calling to order this public roundtable of the Committee on Youth Affairs. Today's roundtable is on PR 26-0358, Director of the Child and Family Services Agency, Tanya Torres Trice Confirmation Resolution of 2025. This is an important step in the committee's work to confirm a permanent director of the Child and Family Services Agency, or CFSA. CFSA carries out essential child welfare functions in the district, including facilitating foster care, supporting families so that they can stay together, and taking action when necessary to keep children safe. What's more, CFSA interfaces with numerous other vital agencies in the district, including MPD during certain investigations of abuses toward children, the Department of Human Services when connecting families to resources and support, and the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services when engaging with crossover youth. To put it succinctly, this agency's responsibilities are weighty, often interacting with children and their families in some of the most serious and life-changing junctures. This means, by extension, that our committee's oversight of the agency is also weighty. It is for these reasons and more that I do not take the responsibility of the confirmation of a director for CFSA lightly. As we consider Acting Director Torres Trice's confirmation today, I am heartened to say that it has been a pleasure to work with her over the last year. And everybody can attest to that. I've told the executive and my team that. She takes the responsibilities of CFSA seriously and has consistently engaged with my office and this committee in a responsive, thorough, and transparent way. When issues come up, Director Torres Trice has proactively come to me and the committee to ensure the potential issues are worked through before they become a bigger problem. She has worked to make CFSA a trusted and reliable partner in the committee's efforts to improve child welfare in the District of Columbia. Acting Director Torres Trice and I have discussed many of the success areas and needs for improvement that we believe will be addressed under her leadership. These include kinship caregiving, making sure that the kin who stepped up to care for their children are supported in the demands of caregiving. Educational neglect, taking seriously, I'm going to repeat, taking seriously issues around chronic absenteeism and truancy so that young people are afforded every opportunity to succeed. Foster care, providing stable home environments for youth in the foster care system and ensuring robust support when they transition out of that system. Crossover youth, addressing the connections between the child welfare and our juvenile justice systems. How the agency is handling contracting, staffing, supervision, and essential reporting procedures, and so much more. Thank you to the neighbors, advocates, and stakeholders who are here today to testify or who have submitted testimony in writing. And I want you all to know that we do read your testimony. And so the record will remain open. If you have not submitted testimony, I invite you to do that by writing up to 2 weeks after today's roundtable. It is no small thing that today's testimonies includes more than 40 written submissions showing overwhelming support of Director Torres Trice, which speaks volumes about her dedication to the children and families of the district and about her transparency and accountability to constituents. I am looking forward to today's conversations and taking these important steps in strengthening CFSA. All right, I will begin calling public witnesses. Before I invite our government witness, Acting Director Torres Trice herself. Public witnesses will have 3 minutes to testify and government witnesses will have 10 minutes, but I have a feeling it will just be a rolling clock as we have a conversation and go through our planned questions. If testifying virtually when your name is called, a member of our staff will promote you from an attendee to panelist. You will drop out of the hearing momentarily and rejoin automatically, after which you will be able to come on camera and then take yourself off of mute. With that, We will now begin with our public witnesses. And I do want to acknowledge that there is another very important hearing happening right now with the Committee on Transportation and the Environment. They are having a hearing on a bill I introduced. So there may be a point in which I need to pause this hearing to run there just to say a few words and run right back. I promise that if that is necessary, it will be about 5 to 10 minutes, and then I will resume today's hearing. But my key priority today is for this roundtable on Acting Director Torres Trice's nomination. With that, I will begin calling our public witnesses. Cassandra Dodd, and if you're here in the chamber, you may come and take a seat. Uma Alawalia, Janine Hightower, Olivia Chase, John Davis, Dr. Bruce Purnell, Robert Matthews, Dr. Alger Studstill Jr., Deborah Giddens, who I believe is online, Christine Dupree, and we'll stop there since we filled up the desk. So I believe we have here Dr. Bruce Purnell, Robert Matthews, Dr. Alger Studstill Jr. Is that you? No. What's your name? John Davis, okay. So we have John Davis, Dr. Bruce Purnell, Robert Matthews, and then Christine Dupree online. I believe we have Janine Hightower and Deborah Giddens. And we will proceed. So with that, Mr. Davis, why don't you go first? And make sure you push the button so the red light shows. Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilmember Zachary. It's a pleasure for me to be here today. To whomever is concerned, I am so grateful for such an opportunity to do this. Miss Torres Trice, Tanya Torres Trice, has really been inspirational in my life. I'm Pastor John Davis, work a lot with Love More, Child and Family Services from Kim Ministries. She embodies integrity, something that it's hard for me to find. She embodies integrity, transparency, and genuine concern for others. From the moment I met her, I recognized a woman with character, pleasant, driven, and grounded in strong values. She is a true servant leader, the kind who rolls up her sleeves and stands with the people, not above them. While still possessing the wisdom and intelligence to make the critical decisions that keep an organization thriving. Director Trice is the perfect balance, strong enough to lead with authority, yet compassionate enough to make space for the overlooked and the underserved. She remains focused and disciplined, but never so consumed by work that she misses the needs of those around her. From day one, she has offered nothing but encouragement, dedication, and unwavering commitment. She is exactly what CFSA needs, a stabilizing force who can guide the agency through transition without fear, honoring what came before her while boldly shaping a meaningful forward-thinking goals of her own. I support her nomination as Director of DC Child and Family Services. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we will have Dr. Bruce Purnell.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Parker, staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today regarding the confirmation of Acting Director Tanya Torres Trice and the future of Child and Family Services Agency. My name is Dr. Bruce Purnell, founder and executive director of the Love More Movement. We're a grassroots, community-oriented nonprofit dedicated to creating holistic healing platforms, helping individuals and families recover from trauma, emotional pain, and toxic stress. Our programs include seniors offering unconditional love, soul, a life coaching certification, transforming life coaches and healing leaders, and a cultural identity project called the Overground Freeway, all focused on fostering intergenerational healing and community transformation. I come before you not only as a practitioner, but also a sixth-generation Washingtonian with family roots in the city dating back to the late 1830s. My lineage holds stories of resilience, resistance, liberation, and love. These stories have taught me a vital truth. Our children inherit not just our history, but also our healing and also our unhealed pain. We often celebrate the butterfly without acknowledging the caterpillar's struggle, brilliance, and courage. Our mission is to ensure that our children inherit the whole legacy of transformation, not just the burden of trauma. To do that, we need to establish strong, deliberate pathways to heal, not just routes that manage harm or punish vulnerability. That is why I strongly support Acting Director Trice's leadership. Director Trice offers a progressive, asset-based approach that aligns closely with what communities have been asking for. Stop suppressing negatives and instead develop systems that recognize strengths, restore dignity, and support families before crises turn into disasters. She exemplifies this through her integrity, extensive knowledge of child welfare systems, bold strategic vision, and relentless dedication to ensuring that the most underloved and undervalued people in our city receive the support, not surveillance, they deserve. Her leadership is already transforming the culture of CFSA from welfare to wellness, from punishment to partnership, and from surviving to thriving. She understands that if we want different results, we must create a different ecosystem. One of the most impactful initiatives under her leadership is the Warm Line, a visionary approach designed to keep families together by providing a place to seek help without fear of being treated as a case file or under investigation. This marks a historic paradigm shift and it is effective. Families are calling, families are receiving help, families are staying together. This marks a major shift from the agency's traditional view of as a social police force, where families worry that any conflict could lead to separation. We've known for years that this mindset needed to change, but we lack the connection of someone brave enough to challenge the status quo and create enough to turn vision into structure, implementation, accountability, and community partnership. Director Trice is strengthening that bridge. She is building the infrastructure with clarity, courage, lived experience, partnership, and cross-agency leadership. And she is doing it not as a bureaucratic exercise, but as a moral commitment to keeping DC families together. As a community partner deeply invested in healing, transformation, and family preservation, I'm excited to walk alongside CFSA under her leadership. Together, we are redefining the blueprint, not just for service delivery, but for how a government agency can embody love, equity, and possibility. In conclusion, I want to express my full confidence in Acting Director Trice. Her leadership is exactly what this moment calls for. Her vision is what our families deserve, and her confirmation is crucial to supporting this bold and essential movement. Let us not only confirm her, but stand with her as we choose love, joy, and healing, forgiveness, and wellness, transformation, and the sacred work of keeping DC families together. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Mr. Robert Matthews. Welcome back.
Yeah, interesting being on this side of the, I haven't taken questions, but I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely, you may begin.
Hey, Director, how are you? Team CFSA, y'all didn't give me the colors for today, but that's okay. I want to write to express my unequivocal support for the confirmation of Ms. Tanya Torres Trice as Director of the District of Columbia's Child and Family Service Agency, CFSA. As CFSA's director from 2021 to 2024, I had the privilege of working closely with Ms. Torres Trice, who served as my chief of staff. Based on more than 2 decades of her dedicated service in child welfare, and most of it with CFSA, I can attest to her exceptional qualifications, judgment, and commitment to children, youth, and families in the district. Ms. Torres Trice's professional trajectory reflects a deep, hands-on understanding of the work. She began her career as a social worker and distinguished herself by specializing in and leading initiatives for older youth in foster care, a population that requires both sophisticated practice skills and steadfast advocacy. Her leadership as Assistant Deputy Director overseeing placement, foster parent recruitment, and licensing ensured the district maintained an adequate and responsive placement array to support children and youth with diverse needs. She understands the operational, clinical, and human dimensions of placement, what it takes to recruit, license, and sustain foster families, how to balance safety and permanency, and how to ensure youth are not merely placed, but supported. As Chief of Staff, Ms. Torres Trice brought that same clarity and rigor to the agency's fiscal and strategic operations. She led CFSA's budget process with disciplined stewardship of both local and federal dollars, strengthening the agency's fiduciary accountability while protecting critical services. During the pandemic and its aftermath, when the district forced directives for deep budget cuts, Ms. Torres Trice navigated extraordinarily challenging conditions. Her steady leadership helped CFSA meet fiscal targets without losing sight of the mission. Because of her judgment and resolve, families and youth continue to receive essential support despite unprecedented pressures. When I selected my chief of staff, I chose someone I believe could step in as director at any moment, under any circumstance. Ms. Torres Trice proved time and time again that she is exactly that leader, calm in crisis, decisive when difficult choices are required, and unwaveringly focused on outcomes for children and families. She has the empathy and heart essential to caring for the most vulnerable, paired with the managerial skill, policy knowledge, and systems understanding necessary to lead a complex public agency. Ms. Torres Trice also exemplifies integrity and collaboration. She respects frontline expertise, engages community partners, and works transparently with oversight bodies. She insists on data-informed decisions while never losing sight of lived experiences of children, youth, and caregivers. That balance of head and heart, of mission and management is precisely what CFSA needs in its director. For all these reasons, I strongly urge the council to confirm Ms. Torres Trice as Director of Child and Family Service Agency at this December 11, 2025 confirmation hearing. The district will be well served by her leadership, and the children, youth, and families will benefit from her experience and judgment. Thank you for your consideration.
Now, Mr. Matthews, you were a little over time.
Oh,
But we let the clock keep running, but thank you for your testimony. Christine Dupree. And then next we'll go to our virtual guest.
Good morning, Chairperson Parker and staff. My name is Christine Dupree, and I serve as the Partner and Development Director of the Edgewood Brooklyn Family Support Collaborative. Today, I am providing testimony to endorse the confirmation of Ms. Tanya Torres Trice as the Permanent Director of the DC Child and Family Services Agency. Founded in 1996, EBFSC is part of the citywide network of the Healthy Families, Thriving Communities Collaboratives. This network was designed to leverage the strengths of each community while ensuring that programs and services respond to local needs. From the beginning, the collaboratives have shared a core goal to stabilize families in crisis, prevent involvement with the child welfare system, and equip parents with the tools needed to build safe, nurturing home environments. Ms. Trice has been a steadfast champion of community-based and primary prevention strategies. Under her leadership, Family Success Centers have expanded across the district, strengthening family well-being and contributing to safer, more connected communities. With the support of CFSA and Director Trice, EBFSC established a Family Success Center serving the Carver, Langston, and Kingman Park neighborhoods. These centers promote family stability, community safety, and overall well-being through programming tailored to local needs. Our Success Center launched in March 2025 and now offers a comprehensive array of on-site supports, including a community meal program offered 3 days a week in partnership with DC Central Kitchen and Fresh Farm, monthly hygiene distributions, diapers, curbettes, and other baby essentials, an on-site computer lab, workforce development resources, and job readiness support, and community building activities such as visits to the National Museum of African American History and a trip to Butler's Orchard Pumpkin Festival, as well as weekly bingo sessions enjoyed by residents of all ages. In FY25, the Carver Langston Family Success Center received 368 referrals. Of these, 277 individuals and families received on-site services and 91 received service navigation. We are deeply appreciative of Interim Director Trice's leadership. Throughout her tenure at CFSA, she has played a pivotal role in the design, launch, and evolution of the Success Center model. Her unwavering commitment to strengthening early intervention and neighborhood-based support positions the agency and district families for long-term success. We truly view her as a valued partner in building a stronger, more effective safety net for children and families. For these reasons, we wholeheartedly support the permanent appointment of Director Tanya Torres Trice, and EBFSC looks forward to continued collaboration to strengthen families and build thriving communities. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Next, we have Janine Hightower.
Good morning, everybody. I am holiday greetings to the CFSA Appointing Authority and other meeting attendees. I am representing myself as Tanya's neighbor, and I have an enthusiastic recommendation for Tanya Torres Trice. I'm writing to express my wholehearted support for Tanya Torres Trice's permanent appointment as the Director of the Child and Family Services Agency. I've been privileged to call Tanya my neighbor, 3 doors down, and friend for the past 11 years. While I haven't worked alongside her professionally, the depth of character and leadership I've witnessed in our community lives confirms that she possesses exactly the kind of passion and integrity required for this demanding role. From what I've witnessed, Tanya just isn't a leader. She is always upbeat and uplifting anchor in the cul-de-sac section of our community. During inclement weather, Tanya lends her husband to many single females who live in our court, having him to clear the snow from our cars and shovel around them so we can jump in and go. I have seen her genuine conversations with neighbors as she walks their dog. I also routinely see her taking time for herself with a book by the pool. That part particularly impresses me since I wholeheartedly believe that if one does not take time to refresh, renew, and take care of themselves, there's no energy to give to others who need you. I believe that Tanya's fully invested. She talks about her work with a deep sense of calling. Her dedication to the well-being of deceased children and families isn't abstract, it's personal. In reading the written testimonies of others, it confirms for me her commitment and how she interacts with other people around her, always compassionate, thoughtful, and ready to lend a hand. In conversations with her, I can deduce that when things get tough, Tanya stands grounded and doesn't flinch from complexity. She listens carefully, gathers facts, and navigates sensitive situations with a calm and steady reason. I envision Tanya's ability to lead with grace under pressure, which is an immense asset for that agency. In this position, I see Tanya as a natural connector. Tanya understands that no organization works in isolation. She's generally collaborative and respects the role that neighbors, schools, community groups play in supporting families. She doesn't just manage, she builds bridges. So with all that being said, Tanya Torres Trice brings not only remarkable professional skills, but also the personal integrity, empathy, and resilience that the district deserves in this critical position. She is the kind of director who will not just run an agency, but will genuinely care for its mission and the people it serves. I could not recommend her more enthusiastically. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And I think that might be a first that a next door neighbor has testified. And so I take that testimony to heart because how you treat your neighbors really matter. Next, we have Deborah Giddens.
Good morning, Chairperson Parker and members of the Committee on Youth Services. I am Deborah Giddens, Chief Executive Officer of the Georgia Avenue Family Support Collaborative. Today, I'm representing the 5 Healthy Family Thriving Community Collaboratives in my capacity as a Director's Liaison. I'm here today to register our staunch support for the confirmation of Tanya Torres Trice as Director of the Child and Family Services Agency. The collaboratives have been extremely invested in our partnership with CFSA in serving vulnerable children and families in the District of Columbia since 1996, as we are a network providing a range of neighborhood-based, family-centered programs and services. This partnership expanded as we participated in the establishment of Family First DC Family Success Centers, bringing more targeted resources to vulnerable families across the district. Most recently, we participated, along with other key district agencies, in the establishment of the 211 Warm Line, and we serve as community responders in all areas of the city. The leadership of CFSA is critical to the continued success of our work, as well as that of the agency. Tanya Torres Trice brings over 20 years of child welfare and social work experience in this crucial role. Her beliefs and values align with those of the collaboratives as she drives CFSA forward in accomplishing its mission. Some examples of this include, but are not limited to, she has worked extremely hard to move CFSA to a child and family well-being system where community collaboration is central. Under her leadership, the Family Success Centers have expanded across the city and are considered a beacon of light and hope to improve in community well-being and community safety in DC neighborhoods and communities. She believes that when prevention is prioritized and families are strengthened, their long-term outcomes are much better. There are many challenges facing the community-based child welfare system that will require successful adaptation to current and evolving strategic leadership. Acting Director Trice has demonstrated that she can lead during challenging times and can continue to build and lead the agency's agenda in strengthening families. The collaborative support to Tanya Torres Trice's nomination as a director of the Child and Family Service Agency, and we look forward to working together to achieve an even stronger future for the District of Columbia. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And that's going to conclude witnesses for this first round. I do have questions. Ms. Giddens, I would start with you. And then
Yes.
Ms. Dupree, I'll ask you all questions on behalf of our collaboratives. But Ms. Giddens, you mentioned that you're the director's liaison for the collaboratives.
Yes.
Is that an official role or is that an informal role that you're serving in?
I'd say it's a bit of both. Each year, one of the CEOs or executive directors is selected to represent the collaboratives in working directly with CFSA. So we have a formal relationship. We meet monthly with her staff and others to advance our agenda, and then I serve as the liaison with the other executive directors of the collaborative
And
to
how
bring
long
us
have you
together when
served in
needed.
that role?
I just started my term, which began December 1st.
Okay. You mentioned in your testimony that under Torres Trice's leadership, the Family Success Centers have expanded across the city. Ms. Dupree alluded to something similar, and I'm going to come to you, Ms. Dupree, and are considered a beacon of light and hope to improve community well-being and community safety in DC neighborhoods and communities. At the same time, I remember our collaboratives pleading for more resources during the budget cycle. So how do you square those two?
I think that's a good question for me to answer, because the fact that the success centers were expanded across the river meant that for me and for Ward 4, we were able to apply for and get awarded a Family Success Center. So we just opened the Brightwood Family Success Center in March of 2025. We're reconciling how to work with the budget. We always could use more money, but I have to say that it has been one of the best things that have happened to Ward 4 and for me as the leader of Georgia Avenue Family Support Collaborative, because it has expanded our reach, our ability to provide day-to-day services that we weren't providing outside of the Success Center, and to
You're playing
forge
your
new
dir-
partnerships.
You're playing your director liaison role very well. I'm gonna push. So how can CFSA better support our collaboratives in doing the work on the ground, including our family success centers?
I would probably have to say more dollars would help. Because one of the things that is not included, and they know that I speak about this, is occupancy costs. So for me, that's meant that my organization has absorbed those costs out of our own reserves and our own funding. But it was that important to do that, and we're continuing to raise money this year to make sure that that happens. That would be a critical addition that I think is necessary.
Understood. Ms. Dupree, in terms of our collaboratives, including the Family Success Center that opened in Carver Langston, and let me just say as an aside, I'm very familiar with the Edgewood Brooklyn Collaborative. I'm a big fan. I know very well the work, but I believe there are some people that are skeptical of our collaboratives and are asking, are they really making an impact? How can we document and show the impact? What would be your response as it relates to the partnership with CFSA?
Well, I think one critical component, which is what the collaboratives were founded upon, is that we are community-based. So we're located in the communities where we serve our families. Our satellite offices, as well as our main offices, allow us the opportunity to engage in a more personal way with our families who come to our attention, whether it's through a CFSA referral that comes through intake, or it's a resident walk-in, and we have the ability to engage with them in a different way than what a government entity or how a government entity would. Residents who build trust with us are more likely to come in and to see us for services and disclose to us what their challenges are when they know us and feel us in their home neighborhood community.
But what data do you have or that you share back and forth with CFSA to say the work you're doing is actually leading to impact? And yes, I'm not minimizing it. I know our family success centers are often providing food and resources to neighbors, but how are we tracking impact? Because when I go to the bat with my colleagues to say CFSA needs more money, in part for deeper investment in collaboratives, the question is going to be, all right, show me that the need is there.
Absolutely. And so what I can share, what I do know, and I can certainly go back and get more information, but I am aware on the CFSA side of family strengthening, which is those referrals that come through child and welfare intake hotline. There are assessment tools that are used that are a part of how we're tracking family risk level. And also internally, we have a results first framework that we use as well, where we're able to track family well-being. There are certain metrics and indicators that we measure for families that come through our door, but there is also a shared tool with CFSA where we are evaluating family well-being and risk level. And I can get you the name of those tools and what that
That would be
entails.
helpful if you could share and follow up with the committee. One more quick follow-up question, and then I'm coming. What is the relationship between the social workers, the LICSWs, and the collaboratives and/or the Family Success Center? Or when you get the referral, are you just seeing something pop up in a computer?
Well, so for the Family Success Center, it's a referral through their QuickBase system. So QuickBase is the new system that's been adopted this year, fiscal year FY26. And so we see the referral that comes through the 211 warm line in our QuickBase system. And so we're able to see the information such as family name, demographics, what the requesting need is, and then we do a follow-up within 24 hours to have further dialogue with that referral.
But is there any relationship with social workers that may have relationships with different individuals or clients that you're interfacing with?
So that's on our CFSA Family Strengthening Side program, and those referrals that come through intake or hotline or even step down to the community from a CFSA worker where the case is closing in CFSA, there is a warm handoff meeting that takes place between the social worker and our intake coordinator and the family as well to help with that transition, and so that the family is not lost in transition, but there is a transfer of trust between the worker that they've been seeing with CFSA to the community-based family support worker.
And what needs to be strengthened with that handoff?
If I may be able to gather more information on the inside, that side of the program, I'm not directly involved in. My hand is more so in the Family Success Center side.
Understood.
But I certainly can gather more information from our program officer.
Okay. Mr. Matthews, I wanted to come to you. There were two areas in particular, but generally speaking, if you had to give a recommendation to Director Torres Trice, what would it be in terms of focus in the agency?
Well, I think she's currently working in that area. From a national perspective, because I represent a national organization, the child welfare system and field has moved more toward prevention, where we're talking about less surveillance of families. Dr. Bruce Purnell just talked about less social policing. We have seen through just national data, there are no better outcomes with children being in foster care. We know foster care does represent a safety net, but children languish there when they're disconnected from family, when they're disconnected from those supports, they tend to continue to regress in their behavior. So in terms of what CFSA is working on is the opt-in program, which I think was just launched November, is that right? And what that does is it's basically a $9 million investment, and they provide services to referrals that are screened out. And what happens usually, traditionally, screened out referrals would just go, families' needs would not be met, but these particular families would receive either economic supports or concrete supports, still working in collaboration with the collaboratives and the Family Success Center. So part of that is really trying to stop the pipeline from entering the formal system. I would recommend, which I think the director is doing, in providing more support to the front end of the system.
Okay. You say in your testimony, Ms. Torres Trice brought the same clarity and rigor to the agency's fiscal and strategic operations. She led CFSA's budget process with disciplined stewardship of both local and federal dollars, strengthening the agency's fiduciary accountability while protecting critical services. Can you give me a specific example?
Sure. Everyone knows, hopefully if you don't, child welfare financing, probably out of any agency, even in DC or others, is the most complex because of the different pots of money the federal government allots for specific reasons. You can have a need, but that particular pot may not be able to be used. So during the pandemic, there were some waivers provided. And from what the federal government will allow versus, now I can say the executive may have different priorities. You really have to decide, how do you ensure that those families can still be supported while ensuring the mission of our essential mission is that we are a foster care agency. So we have to ensure that children in foster care are cared for. But we know in-home services and that in-home population where they are at risk of coming into the foster care system, how do you strengthen those? And so she partnered with me to ensure that we can look at the different pots of money. How can we be very creative? How can we work with our federal partners to ensure, can we use these dollars in a more, I would say, innovative way that may not be traditional? The pandemic allowed for us to do that. So during that time, we were really able to ensure that the safety net for the most vulnerable was served. And, you know, Tanya, can I call you Tanya? Tanya worked very closely with our financial people. When you talk about finances, they understand math. But with her ability to help those who deal with the money understand the programs, really brought the team together to say, hey, here's what we need to do to ensure that we provide the services for those that are most vulnerable in the district.
That is good news to hear. I will say, three things come to mind. I know the executive reduced CFSA's budget this year. And so I think that stewardship is probably very critical in the coming years. Two, I know that there's always just a need for more resources from our collaboratives. I hear our King Care families and others saying we need more resources, we need more support. And that's something I plan to ask the director about, just how she's planning to scale support financially for some of these key programs. But even in just some of the mundane operations, I think having a director with a clear focus on the finances of the agency is really important. So thank you for your testimony. Dr. Purnell, I wanted to come to you, a sixth-generation Washingtonian. You don't hear that too often, so that respect for that. You said one of the most impactful initiatives under her leadership is the Warm Line. And I couldn't remember this. Well, say more about that.
So,
I know what the Warm Line is, but how you said it made it seem like Director Torres Trice created the Warm Line. Did she create the Warm Line?
well, when I came in, it was Director Robert Matthews at that point. But the idea of, this is the first time as a community-based organization, being able to come in and meet a team that's connected to this piece, right? And like, so the Warm Line being a tool, great tool. It's a tool, right? It's a tool to help us get to thriving families. And what is it? And so you get to see the machine, all the different pieces that are working together, and a paradigm shift. Because, I've been in this 20 years. So the idea of even partnering with CFSA isn't, as I got to explain to some elders in the community, like, what are you doing? So the idea of this being real and meeting the people behind it, and the people becoming like, this isn't cliche. We're really serious about this. That's why I say, like, the Warm Line itself, the community has to trust the idea of being able to call and not become a case.
Yeah, because you called that, or you said the agency is shifting from being a social police force.
Yeah, Claudine, remember?
I remember that movie.
Yeah. That
I
piece,
think they were cutting her benefits, and then that she was hitting the
toaster
husband.
and stuff. Yeah, right. Right.
Well, not husband, but I guess boyfriend at the point. But I get the point.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, there is still tension, though, and I acknowledge that shift from that social police force to, as Mr. Matthews said, this well-being agency.
Mhm.
There are some in the advocacy space that would still say CFSA is not doing enough to address young people in harm's way, or they're not doing enough to support families that are stepping up to care for young people. So if you could give recommendations to Acting Director Torres Trice for her tenure, should she be confirmed, what would it be?
Continue to care. Like, so in it, we've been hurt so much that we are apprehensive. We've been lied to so much that it's hard to believe. So to stay on that.
In what ways has CFSA been part of that lie to the community in the past?
Right. So the idea that it's going to be better. Like, if I do A, B, C, and D, E, F, and G will be there. I do A, B, C, and D, and then you tell me the funding's cut for E, F, and G. Over and over and over again. Like, and it's not just CFSA, it's as an institution, like, to be able to trust the government's going to be a partner in us moving, to be able to be independent, like that piece. But, so that part becoming real, and CFSA directly, because you're taking our children basically out of the home. So that right there alone, like, there's a lot of pain connected to just the name itself. So to understand that, and one thing CFSA has been good at is acknowledging it. We know we have been in that piece. We want to get it better. Like, we got to heal. And we know that across the board. We can't go another inch without healing from this past pain. The past trauma piece, we're trauma informed. We understand that pain happened. But how do we get out of it?
Yeah.
We can't get stuck with the label, like, oh yeah, we can identify, we have a name for the pain without a pathway out of it. And this is part of a pathway out. Like, it's like, okay, we need other agencies also to come on board with the community, not as an overseer of the community, but as a community partner. Like, don't come take it over and say, oh yeah, the government. No, you gotta come, we gotta work together in this piece. And that's what's happening here.
Understood. Thank you for that. So your recommendation is about care. Mr. Matthews, your recommendation is about financial stewardship, but also being proactive or focusing on prevention. Mr. Davis, I wanted to come to you. You suggested that Acting Director Torres Trice has been a stabilizing force for the agency. Can you say more?
I think, thanks. Everybody kind of said it, but the point that I would love to make, if I had to make a point, is that she's present. Most directors, you can't even get to them. You can't talk to them, you can't touch them, you can't have a meal with them. She has always been like one of us. And that makes me feel comfortable knowing that she don't try to put herself way up here and we way down here. She's present. She's
Understood.
always present.
No, I get that sense too, that she's one of us. And so I really appreciate that. Ms. Hightower, the neighbor, I wanted to come to you. You said she lends her husband to help. To lend her husband to shovel snow, I think was the, let me finish the statement. Let me finish the statement. But in all seriousness, I think you come from this from a perspective of the personal understanding you have of Acting Director Torres Trice, understanding how stressful her role may be and the complexities that come with CFSA. So if I could ask as someone external to this work, what would be your recommendation for Acting Director Torres Trice as it relates to taking on this very weighty agency that is involved in a lot of pain and challenge as it relates to families in the district?
A very good question. I did make a point in my testimony of mentioning how I do notice how she does take care of herself. And she does. I mean, that is so important. So if anything, I feel that she will be able to do the job and still refresh and look inwardly. She seems to have these types of mechanisms that she uses because she's always just so fresh. And I've known about her doing this work at in the interim and even before that as social work. And I've really never seen her exhausted. So I would just ask her to continue doing things for herself, maybe having like a princess day or weekend where she just does nothing. But that's pretty much it. She's really good at that. She never seems out of sorts. And she's just very generous with her time. Even when I see her talking with neighbors, everything just seems so genuine and just relaxing. That's about all I can really say.
No, thank you. That was great. That was great. Really helpful. And I think that's good feedback to just take care of yourself. Like they say on the airplane, you can't help somebody else before you help yourself. I believe I got to everybody on this panel. I want to thank you all for your testimony. We are going to move on to our next panel. I do want to just note that I heard the word calm and calm leadership, I think, mentioned in just about everybody's testimony. And so I'm picking up on trends, and some of this I'll follow up with the acting director, but that resonated with me. So thank you all for your testimony. I saw Ms. Chase join us, so I'm going to ask her to join this panel, Olivia Chase. I will go through the list one more time just in case someone isn't here. Cassandra Dodd, Uma Alawalia, Dr. Alger Stetstiel Jr., Judith Sandalo, Najiba Halima, Ralph Belk, and I'm gonna ask Ms. Chase, you may begin whenever you're ready.
Good morning, Chairman Parker. Thank you for this opportunity to come before you to advocate for Ms. Tanya Torres Trice as Director of Washington, D.C.'s Family Service Agency. I am Olivia Chase, a fifth-generation Washingtonian and grandmother as of this past Thanksgiving Day of 17-year-old Richard Sowell. Ms. Torres Trice has become an integral part of our grandparent caregiver program's family, and we are very grateful to have her. Ms. Trice's chosen way of interacting with the grandparents of the grandparent caregivers community is personable, hands-on, caring, and supportive. I'm still reeling from the awesome time we had this summer at CFSA's family outing. She adorned her cowgirl gear, and we certainly had a boots on the ground good time. Outreach is one of her outstanding qualities. Tanya, as she is affectionately known in the community, attends our events and participates in our activities. She supported our Living Experiences group conference and has been highly involved in helping us create new policies and procedures as we drive our program forward. While modeling her human touch with a servant's heart, she comes to us with a plethora of experience, education, and passion for our program. Being trained by some of the best in the business, to include the incomparable Brenda Donnell and Robert Matthews, we are encouraged in knowing she comes from good stock and has a strong constitution. This is evident when she visits us at Plaza West, our housing for grandparents raising grandchildren, with compassion and a real desire to respond to our needs. In conclusion, I feel free to speak for the many grandparents of the District of Columbia when requesting that she be given the opportunity to continue to move forward the exemplary work of Child and Family Services Agency, also known as CFSA. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's always great to see you, and happy belated birthday to Richard. So be able to please send my well wishes. Next, we'll have Judith Sandalo.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Parker and members of the committee. As you know, my name is Judith Sandalo. I'm the CEO of Children's Law Center and a resident of the district. Children's Law Center believes every child should grow up with a strong foundation of family health and education and live in a world free from poverty, racism, and trauma. Since our founding, we've reached more than 60,000 children and families directly and multiplied our impact by advocating for systemic changes that benefit many more. We have a longstanding policy of not endorsing or opposing mayoral appointments. We are, however, deeply invested in CFSA, and although I can't speak to cowboys or snow shoveling, I did want to share our thoughts on what CFSA needs in a leader and our experience working with Director Trice. Our opinions are grounded in the experience of working directly with CFSA as well as with thousands of children and families, either who've been working with CFSA or have faced other myriad challenges, as I've detailed in my written testimony. As you know, CFSA has been working to transform the district's child and welfare agency into, and I'm quoting, a child and family well-being system that connects families with resources in their communities with the goal of them never having to come to the attention of CFSA. To this end, the agency has significantly invested in a variety of prevention strategies, as you heard, intended to meet families in need with resources rather than separating children from their families. And by some measures, this work has succeeded phenomenally. The number of children in care has decreased dramatically. CFSA has expanded its offerings to families, including stronger in-home, reestablishing the 211 warm line, and most recently launching the opt-in program. But in other ways, CFSA has a long, long way to go. The vast majority of CFSA's cases are still inextricably linked with conditions of poverty. and hundreds of children end up in care and thousands more touch the system in some degree. Further, CFSA still struggles to give children the supports they need. As a result, some children experience situations more harmful than the situation from which they were removed. Resolving these problems will require improvements in internal communications and practice standards and increased levels of supervision and internal accountability from the agency. To address these challenges, we believe that they need a leader with a clear vision for the future of the agency, a willingness to be transparent about gaps and shortfalls, and a partnership approach with the community. So what has our experience been with Director Trice? Director Trice has moved the prevention work forward rapidly, building on her long experience at CFSA leading this work before she was a director. I believe that successful transformation requires a sustained commitment, and Director Trice's vision on this front has enabled the work to continue despite the leadership transition. Director Trice is also willing to hear, as you've heard from others, to hear and address problems, definitely the ones that we raise regarding our clients' experiences. She also supports our engagement with a broader group of agency leaders to enable problem solving at the programmatic level. This willingness to openly discuss and address problems in the agency's performance without any defensiveness is vital to improving outcomes. And finally, under Director Trice's leadership, the agency has continued to expand its partnership with the community, as you've heard from so many witnesses. In addition to bringing us into work with the agency on the neglect statute reform and the development of the SOL legislation, which we're thrilled you're moving forward, Chairman. Under Director Trice's leadership, the agency has partnered with us to provide prevention legal services to families. Bringing community in is essential to supporting the vision of keeping families safely together and meeting them with resources whenever possible. And we hope to see Director Trice and CFSA continue this collaborative work. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, Najiba Halima.
Good morning, Chairperson Parker, everyone here. My name is Najiba Halimi. I'm the Executive Director for the Foster and Adoptive Parent Advocacy Center, and I'm so thrilled to sit next to all of you, some big hitters here. On behalf of the Foster and Adoptive Parent Advocacy Center and the Board of Directors, I am honored to testify in strong support of Ms. Tanya Torres Trice. I have had the privilege of working with Ms. Torres Trice over the past several years, and even more closely since she assumed the role of interim director. Immediately after her appointment, I requested a meeting to understand her vision for the agency and to explore how we can deepen our collective impact. Ms. Torres Trice made time without hesitation. In that meeting, she articulated a thoughtful and forward-looking vision, one centered on strengthening supports for families and enhancing resources for teens preparing to exit foster care through partnerships. As a licensed clinical social worker, Ms. Torres Trice brings both her professional expertise and the compassionate lens needed to understand the complex realities facing district children and families. Her long tenure at CFSA reflects not only her deep institutional knowledge, but also a genuine commitment to improving outcomes for children and families. While her resume speaks volumes, and what I value most is her presence and accessibility, which you've heard a lot of today. These are qualities that are not always common amongst leaders with such a demanding role. Whenever I have reached out regarding the needs of children and families, she responds promptly, she listens carefully, she gathers the right people and information, and engages in meaningful solution-oriented collaboration. The issues we face in child welfare are rarely simple, and it makes an extraordinary difference to have a leader who is willing to sit at the table, share her perspectives, and work together towards resolution. For an advocacy organization like FAPAC, this level of partnership is essential to ensuring that services remain responsive to the lived experiences and needs of families who reach out to us for support. Mrs. Torres Trice has consistently demonstrated that she values collaboration, transparency, and action, which is my favorite, action. Therefore, it is with great enthusiasm that I offer my full support for the confirmation of Mrs. Tanya Torres Trice as Director of CFSA. I look forward to continued partnership and service of children, youth, and families across the district. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we'll have Ralph Bell.
Good morning, Chairperson Parker. My name is Ralph Belk, and I serve as the Executive Director of the National Center for Children and Families, NCCF, a nationally accredited organization with a 110-year history of serving children and families across the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia. NCCF operates 22 programs, and under the temporary safe haven contract, is DC's largest private foster care provider, currently overseeing nearly under half of the district's youth in care. I'm here today to express, with my team, to express NCCF's strong support for the confirmation of Acting Director Tanya Torres Trice as the next Director of the Child and Family Services Agency. Over the years, we have worked closely with Ms. Trice in her roles as Administrator of OIE, CFSA Chief of Staff, and the Acting Director. Her leadership is defined by passion, responsiveness, integrity, and an unwavering commitment to child welfare. Ms. Trice prioritizes the well-being of young people, ensuring they have access to lifelong connections and permanent families. She leads with both heart and vision, qualities that NCCF values deeply in its partners. NCCF's partnership with CFSA began in 1998, and for 27 years, NCCF has consistently delivered high-quality care for the district's youth. As CFSA's largest private provider, our work has been instrumental in achieving the district's historic goal of exiting federal court oversight, a milestone that reflects systemic improvements and best practices. Under Director Trice's leadership, we look forward to continuing this progress and strengthening family-based placements for youth in out-of-home care. NCCF is poised to continue its current improving model. Our approach produces measurable outcomes by reducing disruptions and creating pathways to permanency, even in complex situations. Key components of our model include educational supports, network programming, birth-parent engagement, youth outreach programming, behavioral special services, aftercare or after-hours crisis intervention, in-house mental health services, foster parent coaches, and professional foster parent model. As the district faces financial challenges, I urge the incoming director and the council to safeguard these proven programs and practices. Protecting these services is critical for sustaining progress and ensuring continued federal funding for DC's child welfare system. I have proudly served NCCF for 26 years and have personally worked with 8 CFSA directors. NCCF stands ready to continue as a cornerstone of child welfare in the district, partnering with Dr. Trice to achieve the outcomes of our children, youth, and families. Again, NCCF is proud to support the confirmation of Director Tanya Trice Torres. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your testimony. Ms. Chase, I wanted to come to you. I know you, like so many, have stepped up as a grandparent. And one of the things before the committee now is increasing the subsidy for the grandparent and close relative caregiver program.
And extending the time of the.
And extending the time. So that part may be a little bit more tricky as we've gotten into it. So we're looking at those as 2 different things, if you will. But what, if you could make a plea to Acting Director Trice about the need to increase that subsidy for families like yours, what would you say?
I would say that the needs of a 17-year-old are far different than the needs of a 90-day-old. I got Richard when he was 90 days old. And so I'm able to measure that the same amount of subsidy does not go, not even half as far today than it did in 2008 when we came together to live together as family. I think that it is really important, though, that we look at extending the time beyond 18 because they're still in the home. In fact, when Richard turns 18 next November, he will just be entering his 12th grade year at Jackson Reed. And so we still have another year to go of high school. And this is not even thinking about post-secondary.
Yeah, no, I haven't ruled it out. I will just share that part of the complication that we're looking at is verification. How do we ensure that an extension of the subsidy doesn't impact other benefits? Those are some of the challenges that we're running into looking at an extension. But as you're testifying, maybe there's a sort of a waiver process or one-off application that we can explore. But I want to get back to the point though. I know CFSA has had like a shrinking budget versus an expanding budget, and that comes at a time where there's a need for us to focus on prevention. And I see the work that CFSA is trying to do more of, very much focused on prevention. And there's a challenge there, right? A finite budget, investing in programs like the grandparent subsidy program comes at a cost from not investing in other programs. It is something I believe in, I'm advocating for. I will say in my conversations with the director, she has expressed support and interest in scaling that subsidy, but we still have to find the money. And I think it's to the tune of $10 million. And a $22 billion budget is not impossible, but that is a material amount of money. And
Can
so
I
that's,
just interject
yeah,
right
please,
here?
please do.
But if we look at the amount of money that grandparents who are raising grandchildren save the city,
Thank you.
Yes,
then it's probably not even a comparison.
I agree with that. And I'll go one step further. We have not shied away from investing more and more and more and more into more punitive systems, carceral systems for our young people. And so my challenge to the executive as we move towards the budget is how do we focus truly on prevention and well-being for our young people, like the grandparent subsidy program. And so I have your support. I wanted that on the record, though, and I know the director is sympathetic as well. So thank you for your testimony.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Sandalo, I wanted to come to you. I really appreciated your testimony because I feel like it was balanced. It was like, yes, Acting Director Torres Trice is great. She's wonderful. We've worked together, but here are some challenges that still exist at the agency, and we know that challenges exist. So I just want to parse that out a little bit with you. You say CFSA continues to struggle with consistently providing critical services and support that meets the needs of children in foster care, their families, and their caregivers. Can you elaborate on that? Or give at least a specific example?
I don't know that I can give a specific example without breaking client confidentiality. But I will say that in particular, CFSA struggles with older teens, making the transition to adulthood. And I think the SOL legislation is going to be important in fixing that. But working with DCHA and trying to figure out who's got responsibility for the vouchers. What I will say, and so I think that's an area of particular concern. There is, as is always true in an agency, a mix of quality in the social workers, and really good supervision, I think, is particularly critical. I can't resist saying I was a foster parent and I have been a grandparent caregiver, although not eligible for the subsidy. So I just want to strongly echo how much money we could save if we supported grandparents and not brought kids into the system.
Understood.
Couldn't resist going there.
Yep, you're preaching to the choir. I'm with you all.
Good.
We have a bill to increase the subsidy.
Yes.
Now we just have to find the money for it.
Yes.
One
of the things that I think is critical in a leader at CFSA is somebody willing not to be defensive. And we've had many, I'm a year less tenure than Mr. Bell. So I've seen a lot of directors. I really respect that Director Trice never gets defensive. She's we don't always agree, but she's very open to listening and really has created that mentality with her senior team, which is that they should hear concerns and fix them if they think they're appropriate. And she always understands she has the final say.
Yes.
And doesn't get defensive, which is really important.
That is really important. You say many of your clients have had inconsistent experiences, with some of them experiencing instability and lack of support to a degree that is harmful to their well-being and at times worse than the circumstances from which they were removed. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, some of this is beyond CFSA's control. I mean, the mayor proposed and the council passed a budget that cuts crisis interventions. So we had a crisis van that was available 24/7. And as someone who helped to create that and also needed that help when I was a foster parent of teenagers. It's not very helpful to have crisis intervention available in the middle of the day. I mean,
Yes.
it's important, but it's
Are you
the
talking
9.
about CHAMPS?
Yeah, but it's
Right.
important to be able to call somebody at 11 o'clock at night and not the police and not psychiatric hospitalizations. So that's an
This
issue.
is a tangent, but I was amused. I remember DBH testified in defense of the budget,
Yeah.
and I get that they have to defend the budget. But their justification for cutting CHAMPS was, well, we have our school-based behavioral health program and kids spend most of their day at school, so it will be fine.
Yeah, except that if you talk to the schools, they want to engage CHAMPS so that the school-based behavioral health providers can do other things.
Yes. And I'll go one step further. We also know every school doesn't have those behavioral health
Exactly.
providers. So I that's why I said amused,
Yeah.
because I thought it was not a serious defense.
There is an ongoing, I think we are excited to have the reduction of the number of kids in foster care. I think the in-home program needs much strengthening, giving the skills to those workers, but also the resources to actually help parents lift the burdens off their shoulders of poverty. We're thrilled to be working directly and taking referrals from CFSA. So a really good example of one I can share is 5 years ago, we now represent a mother who had failed to put her child in school for quite a long time. It is clear educational neglect. In the past, CFSA would have removed that child and opened a court case. Instead, they called us and we represented the mother, worked with her to understand the importance of education, and represented her in an education case. The child's now in school. It's an example of when it's successful, thinking about how do we keep kids out of foster care. Unfortunately, we also see quite a number of situations where CFSA hasn't thought through what kind of supports a grandparent or relative needs or a birth parent in order to keep a child in a home. So I think that's still an ongoing area of work.
Okay. And then you say a new director will need to work on improvements in internal communications and practice standards, as well as increased levels of supervision and internal accountability.
This is the inconsistency. There are social workers who do a terrific job, really listen, know how to access resources. There are social workers who don't. And I think the director has a phenomenal vision. It will require her continued attention to improving the quality of practice.
What's been your experience once you've encountered a social worker that is not great?
Quite a bit of responsiveness from Director Trice and her team to try and work with that social worker. But I don't have a lot of examples to give.
So do you just pick up the phone and say, hey, I had this experience or encounter, or my team had this experience and encounter?
We reach out directly to Director Trice. We have regular meetings with her and with her senior team so we can raise issues and try and partner on good solutions.
And then finally, thank you. This is really helpful. And finally, if you had a recommendation to give, one recommendation, what would it be to acting
The
director?
biggest threat to children in the district is the cuts to TANF that are coming. So I will say this, if 13,000 children lose the TANF funds that are proposed by the mayor, CFSA is gonna have a lot more kids coming to them because the burden of poverty is still the #1 reason why kids come to the attention of CFSA. So I know that Director Trice herself can't solve this problem, but I think we all need to work together to strengthen the other agencies' capacity.
So it sounds like the recommendation would be to make clear to the executive the impacts of that type of policy change on the
Absolutely.
agency.
Yes, I think the Director Matthews did a beautiful job in getting the warm line up and running, working with other agency directors to try and get them on board with working collaboratively.
Yes.
And I think my #1 piece of advice for Director Trice is to continue that work.
Well, here's a PSA, and I can use your help. We passed a historic child tax credit.
Yes.
I'm really proud of that. And it will provide $1,000 fully refundable tax credit to every child under the age of 18 for families making about $100,000 or so or less. Interestingly, those families are not included in the federal child tax credit.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of hoopla about process and all of this other stuff, but I'm very clear-eyed about the impact and the positive change that
Absolutely.
policy will have on the district. In fact, independent researchers from Columbia suggest that that child tax credit investment will slash child poverty rates in the district by 25%. Now, here's the threat. We passed it and we fully funded it. The mayor will send her budget. We passed it before, and I'll let you guess what happened. The mayor cut it from the budget. The mayor is in preparation for her budget again. And so for the next few months, I'm on an education campaign, and we plan to go to all 8 wards to look people in the face like you, Ms. Chase, to say, do you need more help or less help? Would an extra $1,000 help you? I think it would. And you would qualify, as Richard is now 17 years old, for that credit. And it's important for CFSA, it's important for our families, and it's important for the mayor's legacy that we do everything possible to enshrine and protect that policy. So I'm done with my PSA.
Thank you.
Yes.
For people who don't file taxes, would that
It's
help?
fully refundable. So even if you don't file taxes, there's a mechanism in place where you can get that credit reversed and funded to you. There's a way that you can get the payment monthly. The concern, and now I'm on my soapbox, but the concern there is that we don't want to negatively impact people's SNAP and TANF benefits. Interestingly, if you take the benefit as a lump sum payment, $1,000, it won't have an impact. If you take it monthly, it could have an impact. The point here being is from TANF cuts to a level of uncertainty around SNAP benefits, to people losing their jobs, to people, there's heightened anxiety around economics. And the district and the council just passed a transformative economic policy. Transformative. We say we're pro-growth, and so my challenge is let's be pro-growth about families and children, and the child tax credit is that type of policy. And so the conversation happening now, and the reason why I'm belaboring this point is because we are entering budget season, and I have humbly requested that the mayor protect this program, but Ms. Chase and everybody else watching that cares about CFSA and cares about our children, I hope you will join us in asking the mayor to keep it in the budget as well.
I'll be in all 8 wards with you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ms. Halimi, I wanted to come to you. You say, I value most Director Torres Trice's presence and accessibility, qualities that are not always common amongst leaders with such demanding responsibilities. That's another trend that I'm seeing emerge. In addition to her calm leadership, that she's accessible and present. Can you give an example of how her presence or being accessible has transformed your work and or the work of CFSA?
Sure. So I have a recent example. On Sunday, we had a Christmas for Kids in Foster Care event at Union Market at Dock 5. And I know Director Trice was already busy running around doing whatever she had to do, and she still showed up. And it's so great for the families to see her in environments like this. But for FAPAC, it makes it easier for us to talk about different advocacy efforts we have that really need support. Is when she's accessible, she comes to the table, we talk about different situations. Sometimes it starts about a certain topic, but as we continue to talk and explore, we realize there are a lot of other issues there too. And because she's accessible, not just there to listen and then moving on to the next meeting, she's contributing, we're able to resolve a lot of issues in one sitting. So it's really great.
And if you had a recommendation to give to the director, what would it be?
I think as how do they say, eat the hot dog from both ends, right? We're working on prevention, less children in care. I really would like to see the district spend more in recruiting and training foster parents in DC so that we can keep children in DC in their communities with resources that are here.
And I'm assuming the subtext of that is you think too many of our kids are being sent to the region,
Yeah.
Virginia and Maryland.
That's right.
That's helpful. All right, Mr. Belk, you said 8 directors?
Yes. Wow. Yes.
You all are the largest private provider. What have been some of the challenges in your work with CFSA?
I would maybe say over the years, and I think in all the areas that I'm going to mention, I've seen movement. I think the first area is looking at placement array.
Say that one more time.
Placement array, looking at the needs, the varying needs of our young people, and ensuring that there are appropriate types of placements that meet their kind of emerging needs. I would say there's a small group, maybe 10, 20 young people that don't quite fit into a foster home. And so they AWOL and they return back to their families, which may not be an appropriate placement. And we struggle with that small group. And looking at what kind of programming, if it's a group setting, is it some sort of special innovative placements or service? But I think that's the area that we've talked about for years. And I think there's been some movement, but still some work needed in that area. I think the other area.
And how many kids do you think fit in that category?
I think maybe just about 20, maybe 20. So it's a small group, 20, maybe 25. Yeah, not a large group. The other area, and I think Judith talked about it, is the impact of poverty and the supports that are needed for prevention, but also supports that are needed for families when kids do return home. We have pockets of poverty in our city. And so, yes, we do want kids to be in homes with their families, but what are the community supports? And so it's not just a CFSA issue, it's really a citywide issue. And so it goes beyond the work of Acting Director Trice, but her other colleagues and other agencies across the city. But how do we then support those kids with their families when they return home so that they won't come back into care?
Yeah. And of course, we're not asking Acting Director Torres Trice to solve poverty.
Right.
Yes. It would be nice if she did or could for that matter.
Right.
But I take to heart what you're raising. And in fact, we also are entertaining legislation that would explicitly in law say that the agency shall not consider poverty as a factor for separating a kid from their family. But what I'm also hearing you say is that poverty can be nebulous, right? Like how it shows up, how it manifests, could still put a kid on CFSA's radar in so many ways.
Right, exactly. And then last area I would mention is the collaboration partnership with DRS. We have another, I think, small group of kids that have involvement both with CFSA and DRS. And there's always been a struggle with that work. I'm not sure if it's probably less on CFSA side and more on DRS, because when we, as a provider, and we reach out to DRS, there is no response. And when there is a response, the answer is your young person is with CFSA, they have better services. And so there's no partnership. But if there could be some work between both departments so that there will be a collaborative approach to working with that young person.
And I think I remember you bring up a while ago that there are instances where a foster family may have a young person who encounters law enforcement or gets arrested.
Yes.
And then there's a conflict or confusion around who's communicated with.
Right, exactly.
The birth parents, this foster family, CFSA, DRS. I think you're getting at that because of the lack of collaboration between the two agencies.
Exactly, yes.
What do you think is the fix there?
I think it begins with, and maybe there's some work that's already started that we're not aware of, but I think it begins with having some dialogue between the two departments and the partners that work with both departments, and bringing our insights and our experiences and even our recommendations of how to work with such young people. And I think the other piece will be the courts, because what has happened with, I'm just thinking of a couple of kids that we've had in care in CCF that have been detained for carjacking, from armed possession. They go to court and they're released back to their birth families, but they're in care. So they're not in placement with their birth families, they're in foster care. Even when social workers state that this young person is in the custody of CFSA, the judge still releases that young person back to the custody of their parent. And then the young person's back on the street.
Okay, that is helpful. And I would just note, I think very highly of Acting Director Torres Trice, but CFSA has real issues. So I'm trying to unearth what are those issues, so that should she be confirmed, these are the commitments and the focus areas that she can lean in on. Any other comments before we wrap up this panel?
She has an excellent sense of style.
I agree. Thank you all for your testimony.
Thank you.
Okay, as promised, we are going to have the director come next, but I'm going to recess for about 10 minutes. So I can run to another hearing to speak briefly, and then I'm going to come back and then director will have you up. So the time is now 11:59. We will recess for about 10 minutes and return at 12:10 p.m. Thank you. I am going to call this roundtable back into session. Director, it is practice of this committee to place our government witnesses under oath. So if you could stand and raise your right hand. Do you affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to provide to the Committee on Youth Affairs is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Awesome. Thank you. And you may begin your testimony whenever you're ready.
Good morning, Chairman Parker, members of the Committee on Youth Affairs, and those in attendance today. I am Tanya. I am grateful for the opportunity to testify before you as Mayor Muriel Bowser's nominee for the Director of DC Child and Family Services Agency. I am Tanya Torres Trice, a dedicated social worker, proud Ward 5 resident, and currently the Acting Director of CFSA. I have served as a senior executive for CFSA for the past 17 months, a time that has been equally as rewarding as it has been challenging, but one that I stepped into without hesitation. I do not believe in accidents, and I believe I've been preparing for this role my entire life. I grew up in Michigan, raised by my father here today. He is a pillar of support in my life. He and his family were migrant workers until he went on to be a custodian for a local school district for over 40 years. He instilled in me a strong work ethic, the importance of family, and above all else, that all people deserve dignity and respect. I was also raised by my mother, who grew up in foster care, never finding her forever home. I watched her navigate many of the challenges that still impact children in our system today. Her resilience and strength inspired me to pursue a career advocating for system-involved families. I earned my master's degree in social work from Western Michigan University and spent my early career working in the school system with adjudicated youth, sexual abuse survivors, and families struggling with mental and behavioral health concerns. This passion led me to CFSA, where I started out as a supervisory social worker specializing in older youth. I did not know the road would lead me here, but looking back at the teams I've worked with and the leaders who mentored me, some in this room today also, I was preparing for this very moment. I've had the privilege of leading CFSA and now serve as the acting director. My tenure at CFSA, however, spans nearly 17 years, during which I've held various leadership roles. Over the years, I've worked through the ranks as a program manager focusing on older youth transitioning out of foster care, as the assistant deputy director over the placement operations, and the chief of staff where I manage the agency's budget, ultimately culminating into my current position. These experiences have equipped me with a comprehensive understanding of not only what the agency's operations are, but the citywide critical issues we collectively face when serving children and families. I led CFSA through a massive data management and case process overhaul with the launch of our modernized comprehensive child welfare information system. This system will help us better serve our children and families through improvements of internal efficiencies to support staff in their daily responsibilities. We fully launched the 211 Warm Line and Community Response Model, a district-wide referral line where residents can receive information and be connected to citywide resources and services. The Warm Line has already served over 12,000 people since its full launch and will continue to remain a resource for residents in need. Under my leadership, CFSA completed a significant milestone, conducting the first ever DC-led Federal and Child and Family Services Round 4 review. This was a data-driven analysis and evaluation of our system to identify and address disparities by partnering with other DC Human Service Agency employees and community stakeholders to conduct an in-depth multiple case review. This review laid the foundation for how CFSA engages with internal and external stakeholders and individuals with lived experiences to inform our decision-making. A critical component of this work will be to continue to integrate feedback from the community and individuals with lived experiences into our program development and service delivery. Including those with lived experience ensures our approaches are truly effective and responsive. Their input guarantees that our policies and decisions are not only well-intended, but are also grounded in the realities of what families and youth actually need. In this role, I have faced many successes,
but also some significant challenges, including extreme staffing shortages, mounting placement hurdles, tightening budgets, and a very complex political landscape. Despite this, and through my leadership, CFSA has remained steadfast in our commitment to support the district's children and families. CFSA's mission is clear: to protect children from abuse and neglect while striving to keep families together. My mission is clear. I am committed to leading this agency through this charge. With that mission in mind, I have selected 4 key priorities for the team to focus on in the coming year. Number 1, we will continue to focus on safety of children at all levels of agency involvement. Number 2, we will continue to enhance our resource parent pipeline. Number 3, we will continue to strengthen and focus on kinship. And number 4, we will continue to implement enhancements to our case management system. In addition to our key priorities, CFSA will continue to improve our core functions. We will continue to enhance service delivery and strengthen community partnerships. We will continue to prioritize resources that help preserve families and keep children out of the foster care system. We will continue to strive to provide a robust placement array for children who must come into foster care and cultivate forever homes and positive lifelong connections for children who cannot be reunited with their birth families. I firmly believe that collaboration is key to our success and essential to fostering strong partnerships in both the public and private sector. I am committed to continuing partnering with all stakeholders to improve the quality of life for children and families in the district. CFSA will be at the table when addressing educational concerns, youth violence, and any other critical human services needs of the residents of our city. I want to express my profound gratitude to the entire CFSA team for their unwavering perseverance and commitment to the district's children and families. The past 17 months have been full of unprecedented events, and despite this, the team continues to show up each and every day. I know I cannot do this work alone and will continue to foster an environment where people not only want to show up, but recruit their friends to come and work for the district. Your dedication makes our vital work possible, and your contributions to developing healing-centered, trauma-informed systems are not only ahead nationally, but also lead to better, more sustainable outcomes for the families we serve. Together, alongside my committed colleagues, and with the support of our mayor, CFSA sister agencies, the community, and the DC Council, we will continue our work to support strengthening families so they not only survive, but they thrive. It is a privilege to continue this vital work on behalf of the most vulnerable children and families of the District of Columbia. I am grateful for the mayor's support and confidence in my ability to continue to lead CFSA. If granted this confirmation I respectfully seek today, I pledge to continue leading this effort to transform our child welfare agency into a proactive child and family well-being system. I am here in service. Thank those that came out today in person and those watching virtually back at the headquarters, and will now take any questions you may have.
Thank you. And congratulations.
Thank you.
This is a huge milestone and accomplishment, and you should be very proud. I know your dad is very proud. In fact, I was looking to see who's dad. He's like, I'm over here. So thank you for being here as well. Director. All right, let's start with educational neglect.
Okay.
How many investigations have there been, or were there rather, for fiscal year 25? Do you know?
Yes, I do. Please give me a moment so I can find that. In school year 2025, there were 7,432 investigations.
I'm sorry, give me that number one more time. 7,000
432.
investigations.
Reports
Reports.
screened out were 7,432. Screened in were 184.
Okay.
Investigation findings were 52.
Okay. And do you have the numbers for fiscal year '24? Just the top line number. So in '25, we had 7,432. What was it in?
24-25 school year 23-24, there were 6,717 reports made. 6,000,
So you got more reports in '25.
that is correct.
And so how has the agency's posture changed, given that you're getting more reports of educational neglect?
So we continue to team not only with our school systems, but with our partner agencies to focus on supporting families and parents with getting children back in school when it does come to our attention and rise to the level of neglect. Now, what we are seeing is we are getting more calls, and this is often coupled with additional allegations. So it will be called in because a child is not in school, but we'll find out that there are other things going on in the home. And so we do work with those families in the home to try to put services and resources in place with the ultimate goal of getting their child back in school.
Okay. I know in your testimony, you've named 4 priorities, but I have my own list of priorities that I'm
Okay.
hoping you'll make some commitments to.
Of course.
And I'm hoping that we can agree to focus more intently on educational neglect for several reasons. The district is facing a truancy crisis that I believe is leading to more young people encountering law enforcement, our juvenile delinquency systems going down the wrong path, not graduating and being successful. I have been clear, I don't think this work should live with CFSA. But I have to convince my colleagues of that, and that's going to be a long path. So while the status quo is that CFSA is on the front lines of educational neglect investigations and reporting for young people under the age of 13, it is my request that we focus more intently in this area. When I look at these numbers, I don't even know what the math is, but I'm going to feel safe that that's 90+% of the reports that you're receiving are being screened out. And we've already hashed through this. So what are some ways, if you just were thinking, I'm not asking you to make a commitment on the record, but just what are some ways that the agency could lean in more on ed neglect reports and findings?
Sure, great question. First and foremost, I will always come to the table to talk about anything as it relates to children. And so education obviously is included. And so some of the ways and things that I think about are involving our community partners, are involving those that are closest to the children to not only educate, but to continue to reinforce the importance of education. Is actually pretty rare that families don't send or parents don't send their children to school because they don't want to. There's typically something else going on. And so when I think about ed neglect, I think it is a smaller microcosm of something bigger going on in the home. And in addition to the team that works in-house, our ed neglect unit to reengage those families, we do lean on the community and we do lean on supports as a systems approach, in addition to the child welfare approach if needed.
Do you have, by any chance, the numbers for this fiscal year?
I do. I would
And I
like to
know
preface by saying they're not 100% validated, but I do.
And so that would be essentially from October 1st.
Yes, so to date, as of December 2nd, we have received 1,026 referrals. 47 of them have been screened in. 832 of them have been screened out. 75 of them are still in progress, and we are vetting through the investigative process to screen in or out.
Okay. And I know we met to talk through like what does the school-facing report system look like? And I think it's just worth saying, it's clear schools are having to put a lot of work and time and energy into filing these reports, because I was looking at all the tabs and requests for information. It would take at least an hour, it would seem, for a counselor or someone at a school to submit that information. So when I just look at these numbers, again, I just say it's not working. Our schools are doing what they're being asked to do, and something's falling through the cracks there. So again, my request and a commitment I have, as long as I'm chairing this committee is we're going to lean in heavily on educational neglect. And I truly, truly believe that is a big culprit behind what we're seeing play out citywide with young people, whether they're running around Navy Yard, whether it's going the wrong path, is we need to get more of our young people in schools and in productive engagement. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's go to caregivers.
Okay.
You mentioned in your testimony that one of your priorities is strengthening CFSA's focus on kinship. How do you intend to do so?
Sure. So in addition to making it an agency priority, we have many benchmarks that we keep track of and that we monitor. By making kinship a focus, it means that the entire agency focuses on kin. And so what we know about the foster care system is that children do not fare well when they do come into foster care. So we need to do everything we can to ensure their safety first, and then put supports around the people in their lives to provide respite from their bio homes if needed. And so our focus goes beyond just the kinship administration. It is an agency-wide initiative, so that when we are thinking of kin, we're not just thinking biological. We are thinking about the coaches, the teachers, the neighbors who call in and tell you about your pool time as a resource for these families. Kinship is so important to our placement array and so needed. Children do far better when they stay with their family and their community of origin. And that is something that we will focus on this year. We have focused on, but we will intently focus on this year.
And it goes without saying, there's discrepancy here around hidden foster care versus not, and kin care versus, or like formal kinship relationships, or what I dub like informal agreements. If I'm playing this out, the concern that some would say is letting this relative assume the responsibility of caregiver without the formal supports in that role ultimately puts the young person at risk and perhaps lets CFSA off the hook. What are you doing, or what are you committing to do in this area?
So again, that is a value difference. I do not believe that families come to our attention because they want to, but when they do, I believe it's our responsibility to find supports within their current system before bringing them into foster care. So what I'm committed to doing is to continue hiring clinicians who are able to make that assessment real time with the families. Dr. Purnell spoke about not wanting policing of families. And so while I think there is absolutely a place for our agency when children are in danger or safety is at risk, there's also a place for prevention. There's also a place for finding supports that exist within the community. I don't see it as CFSA trying to get off the hook. I rather see it as CFSA valuing families first.
And so we heard from Ms. Chase how she stepped up, and she is receiving support from the agency. And now, is that because she's like a licensed caregiver, or what differentiates her from a more informal agreement?
Sure. So she actually stepped up so her grandson wouldn't have to come into our care. She's part of the grandparent caregivers program. And so her grandson never came to our care and attention because she stepped up and took him, and in turn got a subsidy rate for that.
I guess what I'm getting at is there are so many informal agreements where people aren't getting the subsidy. They're not getting added support. They're not having the agency check in with them. So what differentiates those two scenarios?
Sure. So when we launch an investigation and make the decision to separate a child, we become agency involved. When we launch an investigation and family steps up or family finds or select somebody within their community to come for their child and support their child, we do not police, we do not monitor, we do not check in with them. Now, we'll say we don't do so formally. We do connect them to community collaboratives. We do connect them to supports and resources, but as far as going into their homes and monitoring like we do for system-involved families, we do not do that, and that's what differentiates the two.
Okay, so hypothetically speaking, I think we heard an example of a mom got into an altercation and was arrested. Her kids were there at the scene. Grandma comes and says, I'll just take the kids. CFSA says, okay, you take the kids.
We say, let's
It's
check
better,
out.
it's better for the kids to
Yeah.
be with grandma than being, I'm there. But that grandma who steps up to assume that responsibility is informally being supported. She's not receiving subsidy, or would she be eligible
She
to
would be eligible to receive subsidy if she applied, yes.
if she applied?
Yes.
Okay. Now, is any grandparent that assumes that responsibility eligible?
If they live in the district and they can prove that they have had the child for 6 months, and they have been the guardian, yes, they can. Now, in cases like the one you just described, obviously, they haven't had the child for 6 months in their home, but we would still take that application because the grandmother stepped in. If she applied, it also extends to caregivers. So relative caregivers, there's usually a gentleman, Mr. Massey, who comes here and speaks about his stepping in for a sibling, same thing. He stepped up because his mother at the time wasn't able to care for her children. He stepped up and receives a subsidy.
And are all close relatives or grandparents educated of their right to apply when in those situations?
Yes, yes, they are.
Okay. Are there limits or restrictions for those kin families of having proximity to the birth parent if the birth parent is deemed unfit for the child?
So we look at kin as we do, we take the national approach. Kinships, it goes beyond blood. So obviously, if it's somebody who I just met here in this courtroom today, no, that's not kinship. You have to have an established relationship and you have to be able to prove that to us. So it's not just somebody you met yesterday, but somebody who has been in the life of the child and who has proximity, as you said, to the family.
No, I guess what I'm asking, there are reports that some birth parents are prohibited from seeing the child, being close to the child. I know that's the case in certain foster family scenarios, but I've also heard this come up in some kinship relationships where in order to receive support, the birth mom, for instance, can't be there. So I'll give an example. If my daughter is struggling with drugs and I'm assuming the responsibility of taking care of the grandkids, are there times when CFSA would say the mom can't be within proximity of the kids?
There are times if they were in our formal or in foster care where parents aren't able to have visitation without the presence of a CFSA social worker, and that is when safety is of concern. There are times when that does happen, yes. But we absolutely believe in co-parenting and bridging the gap between the resource parent or the foster parent and the bio parent. We think it's important. The goal ultimately is always to return the child home to their family, if safe to do so. But there are times, yes, when parents aren't able to just have direct access to their children.
Got it. Then there's this issue of safety plans where the agency creates a safety plan to support a family before they formally are entered into the system. How many safety plans are currently open?
I did not bring that with me, but I will get that for you.
I kind of knew you were going to say that. Do you have an accounting of how many safety plans there were last fiscal year? Because part of the criticism of the agency is that there is a lack of transparency as it relates to these safety plans. Some would argue the safety plans are used as a tool to usher kids into this hidden foster care or these informal agreements. And so having that number would be available. Another request for commitment would be, are you committed, Director, to sharing and being more transparent about how many of those safety plans are open at any given time?
Yes, I am committed
Publicly.
to. I will vet that and I will respond to that question after I speak with OGC. But yes, I am committed to sharing with the council.
I think sharing monthly how many safety plans are open, as well as like how many are outstanding or carryovers versus new plans, would be helpful. Okay. What further supports do you envision providing to KIN caregivers if confirmed as director?
Well, again, CFSA will always be the agency charged with protecting and keeping children safe, just as we are the agency who works towards prevention. So we have a whole entire administration called the Office of Thriving Families who they're dedicated to supporting families who come to our attention, but not necessarily our care. So I commit to keeping that team intact and continuing our work towards not bringing children into the foster care system when we can. And so to directly support the kin care providers, we will continue to have our grandparent caregivers program. We will continue to hold the events that bring them together. We will continue to have the staff that help them navigate some of the challenges they are facing. And of course, the 211 warm line there that is always open as a resource for all residents.
And we've discussed increasing the subsidy rate for the grandparent and close relative program. We heard passion testimony today from Ms. Chase, and we've heard how important that resource is for so many families. Are you supportive of increasing the subsidy rate?
I am. I understand the request to increase the subsidy rate, and I do understand also that raising a child comes at a very high cost. So I am supported to looking at that. I am in support of looking at that and working with the council to land.
Okay. Are you using flex funds on a frequent basis, and if so, how often, to meet the needs of informal caregivers?
Yes, we are using flex funds on a very regular basis. They are with our community collaboratives, and I would venture to say, if not daily, weekly, they are used to support the needs that arise with our families.
Can you give me some examples of what that might look like and how you all both learn of a situation, but also disperse support to a family?
Sure. How we learn of it often is current involvement with the collaboratives or sometimes calling into the hotline. A family calls. I'll give one example that comes to mind and is facing eviction or is facing their water or utilities being shut off. We first obviously look towards the community resources. And if they aren't there, we do have limits, but we do provide flex funds to stabilize housing. We provide flex funds to buy cribs, to buy tangible needs that the residents of our city are facing, even if they're
When you
not
say
involved.
stabilized housing, what does that mean? Like you pay rent?
And we have paid rent.
What are the limits on that?
I don't have the limits with me, but I can give you the
It's
limit that we keep.
intriguing. I'm glad you're doing that because I think that would make the difference between a family living on the street or not. And so those individuals not receiving the formal subsidies are also eligible for these flex funds.
Yes, if they come through the community collaboratives or the warm line at times.
And is that primarily how you're using the flex funds, through the community collaboratives?
It is. We also have a pot of money for our calls who come into our hotline. And again, for families who have tangible needs, they come or somebody's calling or they're calling because they come to our attention, but they don't warrant a child welfare response, but there is a need. We do try to fill that need if we are able to do so. Again, flex funds are budgeted and limited, but as long as we have them, we do try to fulfill the need.
And so if I'm the Brooklyn Edgewood Collaborative, is it a request that's sent up to central office and you all approve it?
Yes, and it comes again through our Office of Thriving Family where the primary prevention work is happening. But yes, they do work very closely together.
Understood. All right, I have prepared questions, but I want to also include some of the things I heard earlier in our testimony, which included older teen transition and FUP vouchers, crisis intervention, in-home programs, the quality of social workers, training more families in DC so that we can expand placements, the placement array, impact of poverty, on CFSA's work and strengthening partnerships with DYRS. Those were some of the things that came up. I'll just focus on the older teen transition. I know that it's part of your background with the agency. That's been a priority for you. What are some of the needs still in the agency around older teen transition as they're aging out of the system?
Yeah, so I would say, unfortunately, for our young people who do stay in our system for quite some time, they at times do experience being involved in a system, and sometimes it is very hard for them to transition from an agency who does provide majority of their needs, housing, finances, cell phone, you name it, to being in the world, the real world. Here at our agency, we have an area called Older Youth Empowerment, which focuses on supporting our youth and the social worker to transition the youth successfully out of care. That is our goal. We start planning at age 14 through our youth transition plans and hit all of our key domains: housing, employment, education, health, sexual health, mental health, and try to address those needs before they leave our system. And once they do leave our system, do have an aftercare component as well that works with them if they choose up until age 23. So what we do find is we have about 40 youth who age out of our foster care system a year. And while many of them are aging out with housing at the time of transition, they do at times lose that housing, or something happens in the home or wherever they're staying that they do have to come back for support. So we do have the aftercare component as well.
And I know from previous testimony, while you are providing the FUP vouchers, I think the timeline is an issue from like receiving the voucher to actually actualizing it. That has come up, or the voucher not being enough for certain places.
We're also finding that those two are the issues, and we believe that we are working with the Housing Authority to improve some of the feedback that we've heard and share the end user or our young people's feedback around that. But we're also having a hard time finding landlords willing to accept the vouchers, and that's been an ongoing struggle. So it will, like education, take a team approach to tackling housing in the district.
Yeah. I also remember in the Seoul hearing, we had young people say, if I'm 14, 15, I'm less interested in adoption and I'm just going to age out. It's in my interest to just age out, receive benefits and supports. How many older teens are seeking permanency through adoption? Do you have like numbers on that?
Yes, I do. Please give me a moment. I should have made a tab for that.
And while you're looking for that, I'm assuming the reason for that is that young person, well, I'm actually not sure why they would make that. Do you have a guess why a young person may choose to just age out versus a permanent family through
Yeah.
adoption?
I'll use my mother as the example. My mom didn't want to forego her relationship with her family and felt that if she got adopted, that would be severing those ties. And so we heard that from our soul kids, and I know that to be true in her life.
Yep, that resonates.
Okay, the number of children with a goal of adoption is 108.
And that's annually?
This is right now, we currently have 540 children in our care, and 108 of them have a goal of adoption.
Goal of adoption. And how do you break that down by age? Like how many are in that older?
I don't have that broken down by age, but I could get that for you.
Okay. I would be interested in 14 and older.
Okay.
Okay, I want to turn to some of the KPIs the agency has set. And we're going to come back to the agency or the questions I have.
Okay.
One of the KPIs for the agency is closed CPS investigations rated as having acceptable quality. Your fiscal year 24 target was 80%. You landed at 76.6%. The target for 25 was 80%. Where did you end up? Do you know?
I did not bring the ending number with me, but
Okay.
I would like to say that I'm very proud of that 76%. While we strive for 80, that was completed on a very short staff. And they still closed the investigation safely and took every measure needed to ensure that we were giving time and attention to the cases to meet this acceptable investigation, closely meet the acceptable
And
investigation
who's
standard.
deeming it acceptable quality? Is that just an in-house rating?
Oh, there's a quality service review that happens, and it consists of community members, a whole panel who rates them.
New entries into foster care, fiscal year 24, you had a target of 185. And you were actually at 210, so you exceeded the goal in a negative way, meaning you only wanted 185, you were at 210. For fiscal year 25, you had 185. Again, do you know where that ended up?
Yes, so we continue to see an increase of children in our foster care system. We are seeing about a 4% increase from 2023 on. So while we are working towards prevention and keeping families together, we are seeing an increase, including the number of hotline calls on this last 10 months. You asked about data for Wormline and if we've seen an increase or decrease in the calls. We have seen an actual increase, including an increase to the number of children coming into our care. November being a record month where we saw 25 children come into our care.
Before I go there, where did we end in fiscal year 25 for entries into foster care?
I believe I have that, but let me take a look. Okay, I don't have the math calculated, but I will get that to you. I do have it broken down by month, but I can get that to you as a whole number.
Okay, I would love that if we could do that before the end of this hearing.
Yep.
I would like that on the record. And just zooming out, there's been this transition to a wellness focus, prevention focus. We want fewer young people in the system, but we're actually seeing that number ticking in the, I don't want to say the wrong direction. We're seeing the number tick up though, as more kids are entering the foster system. Percentage of referrals accepted or rejected within 3 business days when supportive services for the front yard population through either the Family Success Centers, 211, or collaboratives. You ended fiscal year 24 at 85.9%. And I don't have it. Do you have where it was in 25? No.
I did not bring that, but I can get that to you as well.
Okay. I'm getting a jump on oversight question.
I will be prepared for that as well if confirmed.
Percentage of children receiving a full dental evaluation within 60 days of placement. The goal was only 60%. Why would it be so low?
It is a goal that I've monitored, and I did not bring that, but I will get that if you're going to ask that too. But it is so low because what we find is it's oftentimes hard to get into providers. It's hard to, you can come into care today and not be able to get an appointment until 2 months, 3 months from now. So it is a goal that we have set and we do struggle to meet, but we will continue to prioritize dental health. It is part of overall health and we do find it important.
Okay, I don't buy that, respectfully. That just seems really low. Good news, in fiscal year 24, you all exceeded the goal and had nearly 65%, but that's still, I think, a failing rate. And it would just strike me, and let me just make sure I'm clear. When we say percentage of children, that's what, children in the care of CFSA?
Within that time frame. So they may get it after one day would not be able to count into that time frame.
I know, but are we talking about like foster kids or?
Yes. Yes, kids who come into our care. So our 540 kids are the new entries into foster care.
I got it. Within 60 days. It would seem to me like a partnership with DC Health would be able to set up routine visits to say, all right, bring the kids here on these days so that we can get this
Yeah,
done.
we actually historically had a partnership where the mobile van would come, but it was underutilized and people would make appointments and not show, or the children would refuse. And so that is something that we did move away from. But again, I can explore if that is something still available, but it is something that we do keep on our radar. And obviously, when they come into our care and attention, dental health is important.
Percent of youth in foster care who graduate from high school. The goal in fiscal year 24 was 70%. You surpassed that, 70.4%. And in 25, the goal was 70%. And I'm assuming you don't know where that ended, but
I
if
do
you can
not.
also find that.
Okay.
Why might foster youth not graduate from high school? Or like, what is the conversation relationship between the agency and that foster family?
Oh, a variety of reasons. A lot of times our children unfortunately don't value education. They want to take an alternative path. They want to take the path of vocation. A lot of times our kids are coming to us and they're very traumatized, and they are having history of trauma in the home first and then in the community. So a multitude of reasons could attribute to a child not graduating or wanting to even graduate high school.
Percentage of children who enter foster care and are placed into kinship care within 90 days, which translates to we're trying to get you back to your family.
Mhm.
You had a goal of 30% and you were roughly at 25% in fiscal year 24. You had a goal of 30% in fiscal year 25, and you were even lower at 21.7% for Q1 of 25. Do you know where? I'm assuming you don't know where that is.
Well, I do actually know that one. We're right around
That one.
26%. Yes,
For
but
the end of fiscal year 25?
yes, and what I'll say though is it's within 90 days. So many of them did reach after 90 days, but if you don't reach it within those 90 days, it does not count it towards that total. And I would just like to make the distinction. These are families who go through the entire licensing process. So the kinship families that are assigned to social worker, the kinship families that go through the same licensing standards as our resource parents. So that can take up to 100 days sometimes. But again, our goal is to have it happen quicker, if, again, safe to do so.
Okay. Percentage of employees that are district residents. In fiscal year 24, you were at 28.6%. Do you know where it is now?
I do not, but I can work with my our HR department to
So
get
more
that
than
numbers.
70% of CFSA's employees are non-district residents?
I don't have those numbers, but I can absolutely look into that for you.
That's staggering. I've been a big proponent of DC residents benefiting from DC agencies, DC jobs, DC board appointments. And so that's staggering that the vast majority of the agency seems to be employed or individuals employed by the agency are non-residents. Oh, this is a good one.
Okay.
Percentage of required contractor evaluations submitted to the Office of Contracting and Procurement on time. In fiscal year 24, it was at 52.6%. Do you know where that is now?
I do not know exactly that number, but I will get that for you.
Okay. That seems very low to me. Required contractor evaluations submitted to the Office of Contracting and Procurement on time was roughly 50%. And my guess is it's roughly 50% now. And so what would be the reasons why required contractor evaluations or just contracts in general are delayed or late?
So we do have a very rigorous contract vetting process and evaluation, and at times it requires many and multiple parties involved in that vetting and monitoring and the evaluation. So there is no excuse for it being late. That is not our goal. You said it yourself. I am very responsive. My team is responsive, and I will get this number, and we will work to improve
And
those
this is
numbers.
relevant because now the agency has yet another contract that is you all are seeking retroactive approval. So someone said, yeah, let's just pay out for these services and then let's go ask the council later to approve it retroactively. We did that once before, and now it's happening again, which to me raises a red flag that some internal systems are not what they should be. Is that because of staffing shortages?
It is not staffing shortages. It is the increase in children we saw coming into care towards the end of the school year, resulting in an increased need for transportation supports that we did not plan for. We used previous year's projections. But when we saw 8 or 9 additional children come into care, their homes were in Maryland. We had to transport to the tune of $150 to $400 per trip.
Their homes
Resulting.
are in Maryland?
That is correct. So they're placed with our partner
see.
who we
I
heard in
see, yeah.
CCF.
And then the question came up, why are you contracting by you, the agency? Why are you contracting for school transportation services and not OSSI?
Sure. So we, as the Child Welfare Agency, are legislatively mandated to provide transportation to the school of origin for the children coming into our care. And we have to work through the best interest laws to move schools. So it is our obligation to ensure their continuity of education in their school of origin. So again, while we also
Okay,
want
come
to.
again. I missed that.
Mhm.
What does that mean?
So-
So
Yeah,
for a kid that comes into your care, they're already going to the school.
we don't have a
You
home.
need to provide transportation so they can still go to the school they were originally at.
So it's not an issue if they are in DC. We work closely with OSSI to change their transportation routes to get them from their new resource home to
I
the
see.
school. But if
I
they are
see.
placed in Maryland, because we don't have enough DC homes, then
That's
we
where
have to
you all
transport.
then. So if they were in DC, OSSI would pick that up.
100%. We work with them. We do have about a 10-day period where they have to reroute, and we pick up the cost and the transportation during that time. But we do work very closely with OSSI to reroute their transportation in the district.
I got it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
And the reason for the contract being late, it's because you saw an uptick in youth needing those services towards the end of the school year.
Yes, that we did not anticipate, and again, not anything I like to do or have to be in this posture to respond to this, but yes, that is what happened
I
on
don't
this
have the
contract.
contract in front of me, but I feel like have services been paid already?
Services have been paid for this contractor, yes.
So the money has already been paid.
I can confirm that, but yes, I will confirm that for you.
Okay. That is, as a priority, I want to make that one of our focus points. So educational neglect is one. I'm keeping my list.
All right.
Safety planning, transparency, contracting and procurement systems. And to be fair, Director, this is not a CFSA problem alone. I think district government, there's something going on with procurement that, and my guess is you're probably being polite. And there's something going on with procurement that's not working across district government. I'm clear on that. But that said, there's still an expectation that we get contracts in a timely manner and evaluations as necessary.
Understood.
Okay. I'm done with the KPIs for now.
Okay.
But I would like, and I made a note of this in case, I'm sure your team has taken notes. The numbers at the close of fiscal year 25 closed CPS investigations rated as having quality, acceptable quality. The percentage of referrals accepted and rejected within 3 days. Percentage of children who enter foster care and are placed with kinship care within 90 days. Percentage of children receiving a full dental evaluation within 60 days of placement. And then the percentage of required contractor evaluations submitted to the Office of Contracting and Procurement. So, okay. Let's turn to foster youth.
Okay.
As you know, I put forth legislation, the SOUL Act, that many of CFSA youth championed. They wrote it. They are pushing for it. I want to give them full credit for that. Should it pass and be funded, how will CFSA work to adopt and adapt its operations for this new permanency pathway?
Sure. If it is passed, we will continue to work with our young people at the table first and foremost to adopt it into our system. Again, this has been something that, again, we understand the intent behind it, and we are committed, if passed, to instituting it into our culture. It is important for our young people. You heard many of them, I say they showed up and showed out, came and just spoke their truth around our system, which has historically been created by adults. And never had the opportunity for the youth voice, or while we say we value it, they came and have shown us that there is a different way. So if passed, we will honor their voice.
Anything else?
Sure, we will obviously build it into our structure. We will, if funds are available, ensure that it is funded appropriately, again, if passed.
And there is a court component as well. What is the relationship between CFSA and the family court? Because they would have to oversee and approve these sole family relationships. Is that a relationship you would have to strengthen, or is there like a standing, I don't know, check-in that you all have with the courts to talk about matters on both ends?
Yes. So they have been at the table the entire time as well. So of course, there's probably always room for improvement in strengthening the relationship, but they have been at the table and are aware of this legislation.
Okay. How do you ensure there is adequate input from families as you reform the district's child welfare system? So what does stakeholder engagement look like?
Yeah, so I spoke about it a little bit in my testimony. We had our first ever DC-led review, and while it wasn't our first review by the federal government, it was the first one we led. So we actually pride ourselves in bringing stakeholders to the table, whether it be community, family, end users. Whoever is taking part or using the resources that we have, we value that. So how we ensure that is that we build them into every step of our process. It starts with, we have former foster youth hired at our agencies. We have peers or parent educators hired in our agency. Many of us, myself included, have lived experiences. And so you heard from many of the community members today of how they not only feel like they've been invited to the table, but we actually listen to their voice. And I commit to continuing that. I do think it's important that we as a professionals never lose sight of who we are serving. And it is something that not only I value, the team values, and obviously the community values as well. So I commit to continuing to do that.
Today, we heard a lot of testimony, and I have mounds of written testimony that touts your engagement, how accessible you are, how representative you are of the community. Still, though, there are some organizations that feel like they don't have a seat at the table, or that they want to have a stronger relationship with CFSA. As director, how might you bring more folks into the fold in both partnership with CFSA, but also to make sure that their concerns are top of mind for you as a leader?
That's a tricky question. I believe that I have done a great job at being accessible, at meeting with whoever requests to meet with me. I do not believe that I've yet turned down a meeting. I will find a time, I will figure it out. What I can say is that we won't always agree. So there's a difference between being open and accessible, coming to the table and not agreeing and walking away. But what I can commit to is you will feel heard. And I do take every meeting, every interaction into consideration. Again, this is not, while I'm the leader of this agency, I understand the weight and the gravity of the position and also the influence that I have. And so I, again, will continue to remain open. I will continue to hear from our community stakeholders. Now, I would also say that not every subject is for everyone. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I, again, have made the table as open as it can be at all times, and we'll continue to do that.
And I believe that because I think the testimony is clear. But we have heard from some that just feel as though there was more, but maybe it's what you're suggesting. They want you to agree with them. But I will continue to flag if we hear those reports.
I appreciate that.
And thinking of gaps in service delivery or just the work that you're doing, what are some of the areas of biggest concern for you that under your leadership you really want to turn around?
Yes, obviously staffing shortages comes to mind first. I'd like to thank you for the one-time enhancement for social worker incentives. We have onboarded 20 social workers who will be able to take advantage of that, those dollars. So thank you for that. That'd be my first largest concern. We cannot do this work without the right and adequate resources and staff in place. Number two will always be the placement array. As I shared earlier, we are seeing a slight increase of children coming into our care. And Mr. Belk spoke about the 20 children. He's right, about 20 children. Young people are coming with significant challenges that our current array is stressed to be able to support. We are here for children when we must bring them into our care. And it is my job to ensure that we have the appropriate array in place, and that is something I'm working towards and is going to continue to
Can you
need to
say
be worked on.
more?
Sure.
Like, give me an example of a challenge.
Sure. So we have, I'll just use one of our young people. We have now seen a significant increase of children coming into our care with who are on the autism spectrum. And while our parents, I'm so appreciative of them, they open their homes. It is very hard at times to provide the supports those children need. And so where before we would see 2 or 3, we are seeing now 10 and 11 coming into our care. And they have been through all of the community resources, all of the community supports that their families tried to tap into before coming to our care. And we have to provide stable housing for them. So that's a huge challenge. Another one we are seeing is our young people who may be involved in the criminal justice system as well. But they have been through all of our resource homes, all of our group homes, all of our placement arrays. And yet and still we have to find housing for them. Now, what I know is these children have been traumatized. They have been through so much, and some of their acting out behavior is because of that. But I also recognize and acknowledge that our resource parents have the right to be safe. And so many of them are not wanting to accept these children into their home. And so we are exploring and we'll continue to explore alternatives. For example, we have on staff professional resource parents who can't work out of the home more than 20 hours because these children do require you to be around all the time, as well as other placements to add to our array. Don't got it right yet. It is a work in progress. And I don't believe this agency struggles with this alone. I believe that as a district, we are trying to determine if we do have the right resources for the families that we are serving. In our case, though, we have to place them. So it's a challenge. So staffing and placement are number 2.
How often is it that a foster family will, I hate to say, give a child back or relinquish their rights to a young person?
It happens fairly often. And again, there could be a variety of reasons. We do have a.
Do you have a number or a percentage of?
I don't have it, but
Is
I can
that
get
something you all track?
Yes, and so we also track for our resource parents who I don't know if the right word is return, but say this placement is over, come and get this child. We do track that and we try to understand the reasoning behind it. And maybe it's that they didn't feel adequately prepared. Maybe they need additional support. Maybe it wasn't a right fit in the first place. So we do try our best to do placement matching, but at times that is something that we need to improve upon, as well as improving the number of resource homes in the district who can serve these children we are seeing with very complex needs, very complex.
Okay. Is there any work for those 20 or so young people, those that may have run-ins with law enforcement, let's say? Like how you're working with other partners to get them into program support before they harm someone, or worst case scenario, they themselves are harmed?
Yeah, so we do meet very regularly with DYRS, DBH, DHS to talk about these young people who are crossing many of our systems. In addition, in-house, we have a program, again, with our older youth empowerment office called LifeSet, Youth Villages LifeSet program for our young people who at the time aren't interested in college, but do need to get back on track. So I heard Mr. Belk, one of his recommendations is that we need to continue working with DYRS. We do, and I will continue to work in that manner, both at the director level, but our teams also started out meeting monthly and are moving to a biweekly basis to not only talk about those youth that we share that are dual jacketed, but those that are coming to our attention where we have concerns and they could be headed either way. So we are trying to get ahead of it. What I'll say is I don't think today we have the right mix just yet as far as supports and resources for these young people. But I will continue to try to figure out what exactly that is and how I'll work in partnership with my fellow directors, the government agencies, to address these concerns that we are seeing in the district.
I wanted to come to testimony that I thought was helpful from Judith Sandalo. She sang your praises, but she also, I thought, fairly laid out key concerns, and I just want to circle with you on them. And we talked about one of the things she mentioned. CFSA continues to struggle with consistently providing critical services and supports that meet the needs of children in foster care, their families, and their caregivers. I asked for an example. She highlighted older teens and making the transition, and we talked about that. But can you elaborate? What are some of the other areas that you think are opportunities under your leadership to address consistently providing critical supports and services that meet the needs of children in foster care?
Sure. I think that there is room for growth as it relates to mental and behavioral health concerns and supports for our children who are coming to our care. We are seeing an uptick in unwilling caregivers, or so children coming into our care because their parents have tried everything and still haven't been able to parent their children in their home. Again, I don't think that they want to relinquish their children, they just don't know what to do. And so under my leadership, I will continue to not only listen to the people that we are serving, but also work to streamline our resources collectively to address these families. I don't think that there's a cookie cutter approach to this behavioral modification or talk therapy or one or two ways is not going to work. These children are coming with individualized needs, and we collectively are going to have to figure out how to support them. So our behavioral health needs and our mental health needs are at the forefront of my mind.
And the key word there is consistently. She also says many of her clients have inconsistent experiences, with some of them experiencing instability and lack of support to a degree that is harmful to their well-being, at times worse than the circumstances from which they were removed. I thought that was a pretty damning statement, like a really damning statement, that being in the care of CFSA may very well be more harmful than not. Like, how would you respond to that?
I would respond by saying, first and foremost, I do thank her for her balanced testimony. I would respond by saying it is never our intent to cause more harm to the children coming to our care, and I would be open to hearing any examples of what led her to writing that statement so
Well,
that we can address.
I think she was highlighting the work or the inconsistencies of social workers, some being great, some, I'm assuming, being harmful. What is let me ask this, what is the ratio? Let me make sure I have this right. LISW, and they are overseeing the LICSW.
Almost.
What did I get wrong?
Okay, so we previously had only employed LICSWs, but we now employ bachelor level social workers. They just
Yes.
have to be under LI.
LI.
So before.
So the LISWs are overseeing
They are the clinicians and they do the.
LI as well as LIC.
Yeah, so LI can work independently. Bachelors must report up to an LI. All are supervised by LICSWs.
And what's the ratio of those managing social workers?
Sure, so our staff to supervisor ratio is 5-1. 5 social workers, 1 supervisor.
Okay. 5 social workers to 1 supervisor. And it's my understanding that they all need, what, 30,000 hours?
So they need 20,000 hours.
20,000
in 2
hours every
years.
2 years.
Mhm.
So that would mean that 1 supervisor has to do at least 100,000 supervised hours.
So our supervisors are required to supervise weekly, at least an hour, and oftentimes it's way more than that. So the supervision hours are separate and aside from their license requirements. So to become licensed, you have to put in all these hours, 20,000 hours, plus the 2 years of service under an LI. Once you are licensed, we still require ongoing and regular supervision. That's a requirement by the agency.
And the LI just means they're not licensed.
It means they are licensed.
They are
Licensed independent clinical social worker.
I got it. I got it. But what I'm getting at, how do you manage and or support the development of your social worker teams?
Great question. We, in addition to their regular supervision with their supervisors, we also have the Child Welfare Training Academy, provides ongoing and regular trainings of our social workers, our resource parents, our private agency providers. While we have set curriculum, we also, the team, Dr. Brooks and team, create trainings as they come in and are needed. So regular supervision first, training second. And again, if you're an LI, you are required to have 40 hours continuing education credits over a 2-year period. So once you get your license, you're not done. You have to keep it. You have to stay educated and informed on current trends.
And it seemed like Ms. Sandalo was saying she just picks up the phone at times, or others will pick up the phone and say, hey, this encounter I had with this social worker, this team member was not professional or was not effective. Walk me through then what happens internally when you get that type of report.
Sure. So if she calls me or anyone calls me directly, first and foremost, I don't assume the worst always. I like to try to understand the situation. I take the feedback and then I go to the team. I have a team of amazing leaders who are here in support of their social workers, but also of the families we serve. I share with them the concern that was brought to my attention, ask them to do a little investigation and come back to me with what they found. And again, I would like to just say.
So then the team goes and does an investigation.
Yes, and at times.
And is that a documented investigation or is it more informal?
Both. I think both. There are times where somebody will send me an email and I'll send it to the leader in charge of whatever area and whatever team member and ask them to follow up. And at times it is informal. I'll, just like they picked up the phone, I'll call them. There's also the path of Office Ombudsperson for Children at times who people are referred to.
Okay. I feel like there's something there because this is something that keeps coming up. And I know we had talked about shadowing the social workers and we're still going to do that.
Okay.
But again, I'm going to come back. How are you developing and just making sure you as the director have a clear line in sight that your social worker teams are providing the best quality service and support to traumatized youth?
Yes. I must depend on the leaders in those areas to uphold the standards. The
And that
standards.
goes to the manager.
Yes.
Okay.
This starts with a supervisor. They have a program manager and an administrator. So yes, I must depend on those in charge to uphold the values that I
Are there
support.
like evaluations, regular?
Absolutely.
So after every visit, is there an evaluation? Like how, let's say monthly, you're checking in. How are you gaining line and sight to the work of this social worker versus that social worker?
So
Outside of just the manager saying, oh, it's going great.
yeah, so I would be honest and say I don't ask about specific social workers unless they come to my attention often. Rather, I ask about teams, so the in-home team, the out-of-home team. I spent the summer on a listening tour with all of my managers and leaders to hear about their successes, but also their pain points and their struggles. And so
How do you solicit feedback from the youth and their families? Or do you solicit feedback?
yes, yes. So regular meetings happen across the agency all the time. We have an older youth council that is in the Office of Youth or Older Youth Empowerment. We have parent feedback sessions that happen monthly with Deputy Riley. Again, you heard about our stakeholders forums that occur. So solicit
So those
feedback is
monthly
solicited.
meetings with Ms. Riley would be an opportunity for the family to say, this is not working, or this engagement.
And they
was-
come and they say all of that, and they also say what's working. But yes, it is an open
But
platform.
how is that documented? I guess what I'm getting at is how can we zoom out? How can you zoom out and the committee zoom out to say, these social workers are great. These social workers need some development.
Mhm.
Is there a tool in place?
Okay, so yeah, again, back to regular supervision, I have to lean on my leaders. And I would say that if there have been instances where social workers don't meet the standards of our license first, because again, I'm a proud social worker, and then of the agency and the district who are no longer
don't
with
think-
us.
I guess, and I'm sorry, I'm just trying to wrap my
Yeah.
mind around it. How do you know they don't meet the standards?
Well,
Because you hear reports.
yes, and if it does rise to the level of needing an HR investigation, the team at HR investigates fully. We are bound by a code of ethics as social workers. Remember, if you break any of those, that's how I know for that instance. But if there are correctable behaviors that are happening, we will address through training. We will address through sometimes HR interventions.
Got
It
it.
doesn't happen often. Again, I never assume bad intent first. I do like to get to the bottom of all things that are brought to my attention, though.
I would like to work to just explore if there's a way to have more of objective data from families and youth about their experiences with the agency, whether that's a survey, whether that's independent ways to provide feedback
Okay.
that I think would provide you as much information as possible. I totally hear you about trusting your team, and I think that's great. But this is a recurring theme, and I thought Ms. Sandalo gave very powerful testimony. I don't think she's making this up. So I think that's an area for us to focus on. Question, how many social workers does the agency part with on average in an annual basis? So I know you said you just hired 20.
Mhm.
How many are you losing?
I don't have that number with me, but I do meet bi-weekly with the HR team to discuss all things HR, and I can get that number to you rather quickly.
Okay. That would be helpful. I'm just trying to understand the climate and health of the pool of social workers, as those are your frontline team members that are, when people say CFSA, they're thinking about them less so than you.
Absolutely.
And so, I think some of the critical feedback that we may be hearing may be about those frontline team members and strengthening their work with the community. Okay, one more thing. Ms. Sandalo also said there is needed improvements in internal communications and practice standards, as well as increased levels of supervision and internal accountability from the agency. So we were just talking about the supervision part. What is the national I know you said it's about 5-1 here. What's the national standard, or is there a national standard?
I do not know the answer to that, but I can look into that. I know we
I'm
have.
sure Mr. Matthews over there has one. I would be curious to know. It's 5-1 is the national standard. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
Okay. Let's have some positive dialogue. Okay. What are some of the wins that you are most proud of at the agency?
Recently, I just went to Adoption Day where we saw just over 60 children find and finalize a forever family. I would say a win is Team CFSA. See, I almost made it. They are committed. Okay, I'll save this for later. The team, they show up every day. I believe in our work of the community. See, you got me with this one. And then just the desire to work towards family systems improvement. We are the agency. We will be the agency. We should be an agency to protect and serve children, just as we should be the agency to keep families together. And I am so proud of the team for that.
60 sounds like a large number. How does that compare to events you normally have?
Excuse me?
The adoption event you're referencing. I was saying 60 sounds like a large number. Is that normal? Or like, how does that compare to adoption events the agency has had in the past?
This is a pretty normal number and one we'd like to see continue to increase. Again, my mom never found her forever home. Again, not because she didn't want it or she didn't need it. She just, the system wasn't right. And so my commitment is much larger than this, but adoption is a beautiful thing, just as keeping families together are.
What does this work mean to you?
Everything.
I sense
Everything.
that. I sense that. It's not every day that directors are in tears talking about their work. And
Mhm.
so what I know is that you're deeply passionate about
Mhm.
this. I'm very clear-eyed about that. And I'll be transparent. And maybe I shouldn't. But I totally sent a message to the mayor before to say, I think you should hire Director Trice. Now, not that she did so because I sent that, but I just want to make it clear that I see and sense your commitment to this work. My pastor used to say, what comes from the heart reaches the heart, and it's very clear. So let me get back on script. So now say more about the work and why it's important to you.
Yeah, again, I am the product of a failed system. If my mother had the right resources in place, maybe it would have looked different now. I chose a different path. I chose education. My father here, humble beginnings. I believe that families deserve the best.
Yes.
I believe that is our responsibility to give them the best. I believe that we won't always get it right, but I also believe that I can't do this work alone. I need you. I need the support of our mayor, of the community, of the children. I need all of us. We need all of us to get this right. And I say all the time, they're probably sick of it. It's at the end of my email. We are much stronger when we work together. But I truly believe that. I believe it. You heard from my neighbor to those that came today. I didn't pay them, but I do. I believe that families, if given the chance, will survive and can thrive if given the chance.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to pivot.
Okay.
Budget oversight.
Yes.
Are there any spending pressures you have identified that you're currently addressing?
We are currently obviously always monitoring our placement array. Transportation is one that you just heard about. So these are two things that I keep very close eye on.
Are there gaps in efficiency within the agency that you believe improvements can be made? And by efficiencies, that could be redundancies in staff or systems or operations, and again, in the context of budget oversight.
Sure. As I just spoke of our extreme staffing shortage, I believe that there may be some efficiencies that can be made with our current workforce. And I'm not speaking of reduction in force. I am speaking of streamlining how we serve and who serves in what role so that we're not duplicating efforts and we're not overburdening families with multiple people.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. So if a social worker is always paramount, we have to have a social worker. But maybe there doesn't have to be a peer family support worker or this, like multiple CFSA members in one home. I would much rather have support for many more than to have multiple supports in one family. So as it relates to the
Yep.
budget, staffing wise, I have to make the most.
Why would there be multiple social workers working with one family?
Social workers, but additional support.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. I see. In your testimony, you spoke to enabling a quote-unquote proactive child welfare system. Can you expand on this and share more about your operating philosophy as a director?
Sure. So
How you
again,
view the agency?
yeah. So again, the agency should exist and probably will always exist because children at times may be in danger. That's the agency perspective. System-wide though, nationally and here in the district, I wrote, we also are ahead nationally in how we look at prevention and how we look at supporting families in their communities. And so from my stance and in this seat, I will continue the work of former Director Matthews, Donald, and those that came before me in focusing on providing resources so they don't even have to come to our attention.
So then why are more kids entering the system?
It's a good question. This is, again, November was the first month that we saw such an extreme uptick in something that we are digging deeper into. Again, I don't think that, we don't separate without cause. And if we have to stretch to our thinnest to make it work, we will separate if we have to. I don't know the answer to that just yet, but it is something that I'm looking at very closely because up until that point, it'd been pretty stable.
Dr. Purnell?
Yes, Dr. Purnell.
That said CFSA used to be seen as a social police force. And so just thinking about the transition and work of the agency over time, I think is profound. And there's still yet a lot of work to do to build trust in the community and with families about the
Agreed.
work of the agency. And you know that. Sometimes when I'm saying things, I'm saying it to the thousands of people watching, not necessarily. I'm preaching to the choir with you, I know. But what would you say in response to his terminology of a social police force and how the agency may have been seen in decades ago?
I would say that I understand that perspective. We separate children. So by nature of what we do, I think that there's always the potential for one to view us in a negative connotation. I do, again, have worked very closely with Dr. Purnell in the LEX or lived experience community and completely understand that. My family had the CPS call too. So I understand his perspective, but I also understand that we can work differently. We have strived to work differently, and we will continue to bring those who haven't been involved in our system at any point to the table to hear from them their perspective.
Okay. We're going to transition to the hotline.
Okay.
Have hotline referral numbers changed now that the warm line has been fully implemented?
Yes, once again, they have actually increased in the last 10 months, just slightly, but
And
they
the goal
have.
was that they would decrease.
That is a hope still, yes. That is a hope still, but not only have they increased slightly, we also have served 12,000 and taken 12,000 calls through the warm line. So to me, that says that community-wide, there is a huge need still.
Yes.
And again, we are
What
watching
that
this
means to
closely.
me is there's a huge need and families are desperate and they're reaching out to whomever,
All avenues, yes.
to all avenues.
Yeah.
I won't go on my child tax credit rant again, but there is a need for more support for families in the district, and that's clear.
Yes.
And I think as an agency, you're feeling the brunt of the pain that so many people are feeling nowadays. What are some of the numbers? Do you have numbers for the hotline and the warm line?
Yes, I do. We looked at our data hotline, or the warm line was launched 10 months ago, fully launched. So remember, our first year was a soft launch, and then on to 11 of this past year, we had our full launch. So we receive an average of, in FY, I'll break it down by fiscal years, average monthly calls. In FY '22, an average monthly call to our hotline was 1,461.
You said 22?
FY '22, the average monthly call.
Oh, you went way back.
Yes, I did. I
Okay,
didn't know how far
okay,
you
got
wanted
it.
to go. Thank you to the team.
What was it in 24 and 25?
Sure, in '24, it was 1,871.
Uh-huh.
And average monthly call in '25 is 2,318 or 448 additional calls per month that we're seeing.
And that's for the warm line,
That is for the hotline.
hotline?
Yes.
Got it. Do you have numbers from the warm line?
Yes, they receive an average call log from 900 to 1,200 per month.
For each of those, do you have like the top referral or request?
I do.
What-
Yes.
For the hotline, what is the top reason why people are calling?
The top reasons are physical abuse, inadequate supervision, domestic violence, substance use by a parent, caregiver, or guardian.
And for the warm line?
Utilities and housing support.
That tracks. Have your investigation numbers also increased in line with the hotline referrals? So I'm assuming if you're getting more reports of physical abuse and substance abuse,
I don't have that number with me, but I can get that
but
for.
anecdotally,
but
are
anec-
investigations going up?
They are going. We are seeing more children coming to our attention, yes.
Okay. I'm gonna pivot.
Okay.
New initiatives. I'm looking at your dad. He's ready to get out of here. So let me speed this up. I'm sorry. The stand system.
Yes.
How has this improvement helped with your inner working protocols?
Yes, so this was a complete overhaul of our previous system, 30-plus-year-old system, and it has created efficiencies for our social workers, everything from being able to dictate notes into an AI platform on your phone on your way home from a visit, to reporting out in our ability to see the life of a case. So in our previous system, there were multiple reports that you had to pull
Nice.
to be able to see family A who came to our attention in 1992, and then again in 93, and then every single one was a report.
And internally, are you able to see the social worker engagements
Yeah,
with the family?
yeah, there are live
Would there be a way
dashboards.
to embed feedback that a family so that you as a director could see all of this in one?
That would have budget implications, but I am committed to figuring this out.
Okay. I feel like directors are trained to say that. I'm assuming there has to be a tab you can add to say, add feedback.
How's it going?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I just think I would be interested in that information, and I'm assuming you would be interested in that information. Are there any other newer initiatives that you're working on or thinking through, like the stand system?
Yes, we are in the early exploration phases of looking at our foster parent recruitment and licensing process, but as well as retention. So again, we keep hearing that we need more families in the district, which we do. And while we have a wonderful team in-house, I am exploring onboarding a former resource and adoptive parent to help us with some of this work, who has direct insight, who has been through it herself, who is very connected to the community,
Nice.
and who I think has a valuable voice.
And she would, I'm assuming, help cultivate interests amongst other families across the district.
Yes, and also be able to speak to and hear from the current resource parents. As we need to recruit them, we need to keep them. I value them, but I also understand. Najiba spoke about the event this Sunday. I went there and it was joyous and jolly, but I also heard a lot of concerns that I take seriously and want to be able to address and put action into those concerns.
When we speak of the placement array, do you have a breakdown for the region, DC, Maryland, Virginia?
I do. Okay, let me find that for you. I can start by saying we have 540 children in foster care. 305 of them are children with CFSA, and 235 of them are with our private agencies, primarily in Maryland, very few in Virginia.
So 340 are in CFSA.
305.
305.
Mhm.
And then the remainder is in private
Yeah,
partnerships. But do you have a breakdown, like how many placements are in DC, Maryland, elsewhere?
so that's the breakdown. So the 305 are in DC homes, and then the 235 are placed elsewhere.
I got it.
Mhm.
I got it. Okay. We noted your work in standing up the first ever DC-led federal child and family services round 4 review. How can lessons from this inform CFSA's efforts to provide better outcomes for CFSA-involved youth?
Again, it's inviting the end user to the table. So what we heard, so much feedback and had multiple venues and points of intersection with those that we serve. So how it helps us inform is not only at the practice level, but at the policy level. I think that we know that we are doing great in some areas, but there is room for improvement in others. And their insight is valuable, and we will continue that work. In fact, we've written into our federal plan, so we will commit to continuing to have these open forums where individuals can come and share their experiences.
You note in your testimony that one of your main goals is to enhance the resource parent pipeline.
Yes.
What specific steps is CFSA taking to bolster the number of strong resource parents?
Sure. So I just spoke about the early exploration of hiring and for the recruitment and retention pipeline, but also looking at our internal practices. So again, great team, very committed team, been doing this work for a very long time. We have our resource parent support workers who, in addition to the social workers who work with the children, they support our resource parents. And there may be some growth there. There may be some things that we can do differently. So I commit to looking at current practices and not doing things the same just because they've been done, but being proactive in our approach to working with our families.
Nice. How would you describe the culture at CFSA today?
Yeah, it's a tough time, but I would say the culture is one where those that come to work and show up every day are committed. We have a robust wellness program. We have, I talk a lot about 80-20, about 80% of the people in our agency are pretty good, are okay, come to work and work towards a mission, and 20% are unhappy or are struggling for a variety of reasons. So I would say that culture is something that is a key priority for myself and led through Chief of Staff Dedrick Wilson, and we take it very seriously. So can't make everybody happy. I'm not here for that. I'm here for the mission. And I would say that the culture is one that is improving and that I will continue to focus on.
What are some of the specific steps you're taking?
Sure.
To
So
improve the culture.
yeah, we are working with a national partner we did a safety assessment, a psychological safety assessment in our workplace, and I'd be happy to share those results with you. Where all staff were able to do what you just said, provide feedback in a survey and how they're feeling in their current workplace. And we will work with the partnership to, remember, when we hear the recommendations, we haven't gotten them back yet. But again, not everyone filled it. I believe 48%, am I right, Dr. Brooks? 45% of our staff of 660 completed it, and overall, their culture, they felt safe psychologically, but there were some areas of improvement noted, like they want more supervision was one that sticks out in my head. So proactively, we are engaging our national partners and
You want more supervision from
their supervisor, their frontline supervisor. Again, we face people on their worst days, and there is a lot of trauma that comes behind this work.
Yes.
And so at times we support well, and sometimes we can support better.
Okay. I'm just making a list of all of the things we're going to work on together.
I'm so excited.
Does the agency have any outstanding FOIA requests to your knowledge?
Let me turn to that. In FY '26,
Yes.
we had 21 for FOIA requests received and fulfilled on. We have 4 that are pending. We do work to return the FOIA request within 15 business days. Sometimes it does require additional time if they're asking for in-depth information. Of those 4, we found that 1 that are pending. Of those 4, I found that 1 was sent to the wrong email address. And how we found out about it was because the individual filed a lawsuit and then contacted our agency only to find that it was sent to the wrong address. So we're working through that one. 2 are still within the time frame, and 1 will take a little bit longer than the allotted 25 days.
And what about fiscal year 25?
In '25, we had 72 FOIA requests, and 6 are pending. And these are pending because they are, again, taking additional time. The amount of information being requested is very in-depth and requires digging very deep.
You have the dates of those 6 pending? That
I-
seems like a long request.
I don't have the dates with me, but I can get those.
Okay. I'm assuming your team is keeping track of all the follow-up requests.
I am sure Dedrick is typing as we speak.
Okay. Yeah, if we could just have the dates associated with those 6 pending FOIA requests.
Sure thing.
Child fatalities of youth in the care of CFSA.
Okay.
How does CFSA collaborate with the CFRC when dealing with child fatality reviews?
We attended the child fatality review on a monthly basis and are part of the larger picture in reviewing system-involved or previous system-involved
And
children.
it's my understanding there's a significant backlog that the CFRC is reviewing cases from, I think, many years ago at this point. And by many years ago, it might be like 2024. What might be the reason for the delay, in your opinion?
I am not, I will get back to you, but I will say what I have heard and understand is a lot of times the delay is we must wait for the cause and manner of death before we can review a case. So that is outside of CFSA's purview. That has added to the backlog. I do know that, and I can get the specific delay reasons to you. I don't have that with
And
me.
what is CFSA's internal review process when there is a child fatality?
Yeah, so we convene, obviously right away to understand what happened, if additional supports are needed for the family right then and there. And we have a meeting of individuals from across the agency to dig into the case and try to understand what happened.
Okay, can you say more? Like, is there a time-bound limit? So within 14 days, we're going to issue a report and that,
Typically, this review happens rather quickly, within 24 to 48 hours after a near fatality or a child fatality. So very quickly, we convene and
get
take
to the
a quick
bottom
look.
of what happened?
Yes.
And then what happens?
It depends on what we find. What we are seeing is the fatalities are often involved with children who are involved in, how do I say this, who are involved in criminal activity. So we obviously support their family of origin. We have to share that their child passed away. We have to connect with that family, but also we also support our social worker and the team through the loss. So depends on, each situation is different. But we try to, number one, first understand, and then number two, identify needed supports and resources.
So within 24 to 48 hours, the agency is huddling, convening, getting to the facts.
Mhm.
There is engagement with the family. And is that the extent of the process? And then how is information being shared with the CFRC?
Sure. So we do, again, through those regular convenings, each case comes before them. to review in the same manner. There is a further in-depth analysis of each case. So when we convene, it's a quick convening internally. But then the larger committee takes an in-depth look and looks back over years of prior to the death of the child.
And do you have numbers for the fiscal years?
I do have them, and I am so trying to find them.
Okay.
Here, just please give me a moment. All right, I found them. This is our preliminary data, so not yet validated, but as of 12/2, the child fatality reviews have reviewed 67 cases, which included 8 deaths in 2024, so they were not reviewed until 2025. Of those 67 cases, none of the children died while in care.
You said none of them.
None of them died while in foster care.
Okay. So another way of saying that is no youth in the care of CFSA have died in the last 2 fiscal years.
I have this current data in front of me. I would have to get the
Of
previous
24 and
fiscal year,
25.
yes, but not this year, no.
Okay. All right, we have a long list.
Okay,
It's not that long. But I have 5 things that
Okay.
have resonated with me most in today's hearing and through the testimony. And I have read the testimony. Education neglect, and I know that's your favorite topic.
yeah, I love it.
But wanting us to work together and the agency to commit to doing more to address the increasing referrals that are coming into the agency. Even though CFSA may not be the best agency to work on truancy matters, I think it's obviously connected, educational neglect referrals and the truancy crisis that we're having. Is that something you're willing to commit to?
I am committed to improving educational outcomes for youth, yes.
Are you willing to commit to focusing more on education neglect referrals within the agency?
I am committed to working with the council to discuss this further, yes.
Okay, I don't know why that's a hard. This is a softball. These are softball questions. So, okay, educational neglect is within the purview of CFSA.
It is.
We're seeing increasing rates of referrals. So for this very important focus in the purview of the agency, is it something you're committed to working on?
Yes, of course, in the
Okay,
purview of the
okay.
agency,
I was
yes.
getting concerned, all right. Safety planning. And I know one of the things you're needing to follow up on are the number of safety plans that exist. Are you committing to working together to see how we can more transparently share how many youth or families have safety plans? I would say monthly.
Yes, I am.
And for the public, we have a standing check-in, so that
do.
could be you just coming to that check-in with those reports. Even better would be it being shared on your website, but so you are committing to working together. Great. Contracting and procurement. Are you committing to working to improve internal processes so that contracts and evaluations are submitted in a more timely manner?
Absolutely committed.
Okay. But absolutely not committed to educational neglect?
Yes, I am committed to educational
I
neglect.
digress.
Purview of the law, yes.
Yes, I digress. Placement arrays. Are you committed to working together to strengthen the placement options, namely in DC?
Yes, I am.
And then supervision. Are you committed to working to both have a better line in sight to what is happening on the ground with social workers, but strengthening the supervision that social workers are receiving within the agency.
I am.
Awesome. So those are the 5 areas that out of today's testimony have really resonated. I know in your testimony, you've named 4 focus areas. I think these complement each other. And I look forward to working with you on them, should you be approved. So I have 2 last questions.
Sure.
These are, I think, softball questions. But what is your vision for CFSA as director, if confirmed?
Sure. If confirmed, I envision an agency that is here to protect and serve children, but also to keep families together. I envision a team that wants to come to work, is committed, and they are, but also want to come to this place to continue to do this valuable work. I have the vision of continuing our work in the community. I believe that the agency is here for a reason, just as I believe the community will be there when we are not. So I am committed to continuing to engage stakeholders at every point of interaction with this agency and working with our sister agencies and the council to do this work.
And what do you want your legacy to be at CFSA, if confirmed?
If confirmed, I want my legacy to be that I led with mind and heart.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Acting Director. It goes without saying, today was a very moving roundtable. We've heard a lot of testimony.
Yeah.
I want to remind members of the public that the record will stay open for an additional 2 weeks. So please submit your written testimony if you were not already able to share. I want to thank all of our public witnesses, those that showed up in person, as well as those who joined virtually. Shout out to your Ward 5 neighbor,
Woo-hoo.
my Ward 5 neighbor, who spoke very warmly about her experience with you. And in all seriousness, I want to say thank you publicly for the work that I know is very taxing and weighty is the word I used in my testimony earlier. These are trying times for everybody. And there's a lot of anxiety and uncertainty.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine the balancing act that it is to have to show up every day and lead a team of people that when you yourself are probably feeling like you're walking in the blind, trying to figure it out. So I want to say thank you for being a steady hand within the agency.
Thank you.
That is going to conclude today's roundtable. Moving forward, given the time of year, we will likely take action on this next month and mark up. The goal, and transparently, we were hoping to mark up this nomination this month, but ideally next week. But unfortunately, that will not work out. So we are now eyeing, I want to say January 7th for our date of markup. And should it move forward, which I anticipate it will, it would be on the agenda for the February legislative meeting. So with that, the time is now 2:00 on the dot. It's lunchtime. And I'm going to adjourn this roundtable of the Committee on Youth Affairs. Thank you.
Thank you.